Alrighty. Hello. So today we are going to be doing Our Life, and I heard really good things about this. I've never done a visual novel before, but I am excited. Alright, so we're going to start off with the tutorial, it looks like. The game is divided in 4 time periods called steps: childhood, adolescence, young adulthood, and adulthood. Oh, so we're like growing up with the game. Our life is further divided into sets of vignettes that take place during specific time periods. Those are called moments. Okay. Moments can be played in any order or skipped entirely. You move on to the next step whenever you want by selecting that summer is ending. Oh. Steps 1 through 3 include 5 moments each, and even more can be unlocked by purchasing DLCs. Okay, some are out now and other DLCs will be released later on. Step 4 is an epilogue and doesn't include moments. Okay. A lot happens over the years that go by, especially in regards to the character you play as. You determine nearly everything about the main character: name, appearance, personality, pronouns, interests, skills, the relationships with major characters, and so on. So we have a lot of control, it looks like, on how this plays out. You can decide to change the details as time goes on, with a few exceptions. Your last name, skin tone, and eye color can't be altered once set. Okay. Much of the main character's basic traits are determined on a character creation screen. As the main character grows up, more options become available on the screen. As mentioned, one of the decisions you'll get to make for your character is selecting a name. You can type in any name you'd like, or you can pick a present name. Oh, a preset name. Preset options are called voice names because the name will be voiced out loud by the romantic lead. You'll get to hear him say your name as you play through the story. Huh, okay. Only the default name, Jamie, is included in the base game. Hundreds more can be added by getting a free voice name expansion DLC. Alright. The full collection of names is separated out as DLC because of how large it is. If you're not interested in that feature, you don't need to get it. Okay. We don't really need to say that. On the character creation screen, there's a cute doll you can decorate to get an idea of what your MC looks like with the different traits put together. That's kind of cute, right? I don't know what that means yet, but not all the things you decide about the main character appear on the doll. The script referencing what you decided for the MC is the main way those decisions influence the game. Our Life has a first-person perspective, so your character doesn't appear next to other characters' sprites. You only see the main character as a decorative doll and in special cut CG images. Okay. There's also a second type of special MC based screen, the interest comfort screen. Alright, we don't need to... Okay, interest levels set how much you like him. 4 levels: disinterest, fond, crush, and love. Love is the only available starting in step 3. If you were at fond or crush in step 2. Comfort determines how you generally react. Think when it comes to him. There are 3 levels: nervous, relaxed, and direct. What you did in the past will influence the present, and the feelings change over time. You get to pick your interest comfort near the beginning of every step. Comfort can switch between the 3 levels as you please. Your interest level can only stay the same or increase. This is a long tutorial. Interest level has impact when it comes to physically interacting with Cove. While growing up, things are rather simple. Okay. I feel like we can skip the rest, right? I don't see much. I think we should skip the rest, right? When choice appears, you usually see that hovering over the cursor over an option. The colors aren't related to specific points or effects, they're only there to give a bit of insight to the tone of emotion. Okay. I think we're gonna skip the rest and kind of go along. Oh my, okay. Aw, we get to do our character. Should we make them look more like us? You guys hear my dog? We're definitely not Olive. We're Peachy. I like this one. Will give us blue eyes. I don't really want to use my name for this one. I think we'll use Bish. Sound good? Arima. Bish Arima or Bish Bish? I think Bish Bish sounds better. Guys, my dog is just going off right now. I don't know if you can hear him or not. Oh, that one's cute. Long. That is a 5-head, am I right? Shout out to my 5-heads. Why would I want this one? I can't even see. This feels like a My Hero Academia thing right here. This one's cute too. I really like the other one. Oh, I should have known this was for the front and the back. I like that. I'm taking way too long on this. Oh, look how cute that is. I do want brown hair, but the brown on this one isn't the cutest. But I guess we'll do that. Oh. Sorry guys, I'm gonna be getting a text message sometime. My pizza's here. Waste name. Alright. I think this is what we want, right? I mean, there wasn't really much that I would want other than that. Birthmarks? Oh, we can give him a little... Nope, that's not what I wanted. Well, I wanted the birthmark, but it'll have to be on the other side, I guess. Aw, rosy cheeks. You can do freckles. It's cute. We'll do slender hands. Oh, we could do glasses. That's cute. There's scars. Alrighty. Birthmarks, scars, freckles. I mean, I like all these clothing types. So do I just click all of them? Accessory types. I like necklaces, bracelets, hats. Not really a watch person. Is that it? Huh. Okay. Summer in Sunset Bird was a special time of year. The usually sleepy town began to bustle. This popular tourist destination with people coming from all over to enjoy the beach, the weather, and the relaxation that came with both. The smell of the ocean, crisp and salty, hung in the air, bringing 3 whole months of school-less vacation with it. During the summer, your mom didn't like you to wander too far outside of your neighborhood, so you knew the area pretty well. That included the people. Hold on, guys, I need to get a drink. Alright, I'm back. Families came and went from Sunset Bird, but they mostly stayed and did what your mom called putting down roots. They built businesses, they got to know each other, and they definitely said hello to the nice young kids who waved when passing through their stores. Going for a walk around town mostly meant that the familiar, friendly residents waved or asked how your family was, and most often just said hello. Well, our first decision. Didn't really get why they always said to say hi, they saw you every day, but you nod back at them anyways. You ended up saying hi to a lot of different people since most of the tourists that came and went every summer were the same ones. You were too anxious to say hi back to most of the other residents that greeted you, but they knew you well enough to expect that. I think we'll go with the first option. It's a polite thing to do after all, and your mom's had taught you always to be respectful. But today there was a man sitting on the curb outside your house. Is this our house, by the way, that we're looking at? He was sitting with his head in his hands, his whole body slumped over, and you wondered if he was even a real person or a statue that had magically sprung up from the ground overnight. Whoever or whatever he was, you had never seen him before. One thing about knowing everyone in Sunset Bird was that people who you didn't recognize really, really stood out. It was rare for tourists to venture into the residential district, as your mom's called it. So for you, not knowing who a total stranger was set off a lot of red flags. Your mom had to talk to you with your big sister, Lizzie, about this kind of situation before. I mean, he's just minding his own business. I don't think it's a big deal, but I mean, as someone who comes from a small town, you hadn't exactly been listening at the time. You think it could be okay to talk to new people. They mentioned that some people aren't good to talk to, but other types of people can help you even if you don't know them. Remember that it's okay to run away if you feel uncomfortable. You don't have to worry about being polite then. I mean, I would think the last one, right? You weren't sure about this man yet. Still, you felt a bit scared knowing that he was blocking the way to your front door. You're pretty interested, you want to know a lot more about what's going on. But he was nice enough, you didn't want to be bothered. Yeah, I would feel scared if he was blocking my door. You slowed down, your mind racing for ideas on how to get past him, unseen, but it was too late to escape. There was a split second where your eyes met and you took in a shaky breath, your eyes darting to the sky, pretending to stare at a bird who was hovering nearby. Hey! His voice startled you and made you jump, but still you didn't look at him. The bird landed on top of a nearby gatepost and its black feathers ruffled against the gentle breeze. Trying to keep your eyes on it was tough, especially when the man stood up and started to make his way towards you. Not wanting to seem too approachable, you folded your arms and stared. Still unsure about him, but willing to be friendly, you offered the stranger a smile. Your whole body was frozen as he approached. I mean, if somebody approached me, I'd either be frozen or I'd probably want to see unapproachable. You live around here, what's your name? Oh, he's kind of cute, but he could be dangerous, guys. You looked the man up and down, taking in his tan skin and relaxed appearance. At least his clothes were relaxed, the way he was acting wasn't. He had sharks on his shorts and a stingray tattoo, and you wondered if he was obsessed with the ocean or something. Okay guys, my pizza's here. I'll be right back. Okay, false alarm. It's still gonna be another few minutes, so. Alrighty. While you made your assessment, he looked at you expectantly, waiting for an answer to his question. I don't really want to tell him where I live. If you do, he rubbed the back of his neck uncomfortably, giving you a small smile. He reached into his back pocket and pulled out a clean $20 bill. It crinkled in his hand. Is he gonna bribe us? You look back at him.
Well...
Could you do me a favor? No, that's creepy. Why would we do him a favor? Nothing bad? We'll see. Cleared his throat and stood up straighter. From where you were standing, it just made him look creepier. I have a son. His name is Cove, who's about your age. He's a father? He looks so young. Wow. Cove, that seemed like a strange name for an actual living person to you. You chewed on the inside of your cheek. This guy was definitely obsessed with water. You thought that was pretty cool. I mean, Cove is a pretty good name. We're not gonna be insulting. He's definitely obsessed with water. He wasn't the only person like that in Sunset Bird. He moved in across the street, see? Oh, so he's our new neighbor? Gestured toward the house that had been empty for a year. The gigantic for sale sign was finally gone. You must be Bish Bish, right? I met your moms earlier and they told me you were 8, just like him, so... He shook in the $20 bill to bring it back to your attention, a hopeful smile tilting his lips at the corners. Can you try to be friends with the boy? Just give it a chance and you can keep this. He's a good kid, you'll like him.
Do you mind?
But you gotta keep it a secret too, okay? Wouldn't be friendly if he's to say his dad sent you. Oh, he's trying to get his dad's trying to get him friends, guys. But I don't know, why would you bribe a kid? That seems kinda like, what if they became best friends and it's like, yeah, I met you because your dad bribed me a $20 bill. Did other kids really get their parents to pay for friendships? I kind of feel sorry for him. This definitely wasn't the normal way kids made friends, and you knew that. What'd you say? Want to make a deal? Oh, what'd you say? I don't want the money. Took a step back from him, clearly refusing to accept the offer.
Are you
It
sure?
won't be so bad, even if it's just for the summer. That'd be enough. That only made this sound even more strange to you. Why does it lasting for the summer matter? When it was clear his initial strategy wasn't going to fly, he took the bill back into a pocket and changed the request. I get it, you don't have to. Would you be comfortable with he and I coming by for a normal visit? No money involved. You'd have to ask my moms. That's like the typical, I don't want to hang out with you, because my mom said no, and you never even asked your mom. We'll say okay. His smile got bigger again, his eyes crinkled at the sides. I'll bring him by tomorrow. I wanted him to meet and greet with the neighbors today, but, well, I don't know where he's gotten off to. You don't know where your 8-year-old kid has gone? That's kind of concerning. He laughed when he said that, but the way his face looked, you thought he actually wanted to cry. Aww. If you see him, can you tell him to come on home? I mean, yeah. He's got a pink cast and glasses. You can't miss it. Say okay. The man smiled and reached out to pat you on the head, paused before doing so, then pulled his hand away instead. Your mom's are already checking out around for me. Such a thoughtful group. You are. Now I better go look too. Can't put everyone else to work while I keep sitting here. It's not what's important. I have to go. Alrighty. Decide to check the hills behind your house. The chirping of crickets in the tall grass greeted you, quiet and familiar. From the top of the hill, you could see the ocean. As you walked, you listened to the crash of the waves on the shore and the seagulls squawking as they settled down for the night. You've always loved the ocean. It was so much fun. You loved to hear stories about the sea. You didn't enjoy the beach much at all. I love the ocean, so I'm gonna... Sometimes you could almost convince yourself you had seen the flash of a shiny mermaid's tail in the distance. But something told you you weren't alone. Aw. There was a boy sitting at the top of one hill, almost completely hidden within the long grass and white flowers surrounding him. His head buried in his knees, staring ahead by himself. For whatever reason, probably just that he wasn't paying attention, he hadn't noticed you yet. You watched him a minute longer, feeling a little bit like you'd found a deer in the wild. Though deer didn't have green hair, wavy eyebrows, huge glasses, pink casts, sad frowns. I'll say green hair, but this new boy did. You watched as it fluttered softly around his face in the breeze. After a few more seconds, you took a step forward, then another, and then he glanced your way. His aquamarine eyes reflected the light of the moon. You stopped, raising a hand to acknowledge him and show you weren't scary. Okay, let's take a minute. I wonder when this game was made, because you guys remember Wattpad? They always called like green blue eyes, like they always referred to them as these aquamarines reflected the light of the moon. Like, that's such a Wattpad line that I feel like it was made back when Wattpad was like popping off. Hey Space Cadet, are you lost? I think Hey Space Cadet would be cute. With a start, he jumped to his feet, his hands balling into fists at his side. Oh, he's about to fight us. He didn't say anything, just stared at you in a strange way. Oh, is he crying? He had been crying. There were traces of tears on his cheeks and his knees, soaking the hem of his shorts, and his eyes were still shining with a few more. You obviously caught him off guard. His pink cast seemed to glow in the twilight, though when he caught you staring at it, he hid his arm behind his back. Something the man earlier had said stuck out to you. Cove? His eyes wide as he studied you. How'd you know that? Should I say lucky guess? No way, tell the truth. Your dad told me who you were.
Oh.
So is this your hill? He gestured with his uninjured arm to the patch of grass surrounding you, his face falling at the prospect. I can leave it if it is. Aw. I don't think we own an entire hill, but... yeah, you can't own a hill. How could you? Just do. I had a hill back home. Oh, he's rich. He's got property. Well, this isn't mine. He sat back down with a thump, resting his chin on his knees again. Curious about the strange new boy with the odd dad, you sat on the patch of grass next to him. The pure white flowers that covered the hill rocked back and forth gently as the stars twinkled above. The way they dotted the sky made them seem like flowers too. The night wind was cool as it traveled over the ocean and up the hill, chasing away the heat from the afternoon sun. Should we ask why you're here? Almost like they never stopped, his tears started up again with a vengeance. My parents, they don't want to live together with me anymore. Aw, are they getting a divorce? My mom made my dad leave and he took me with him, and now we have a house here and I want to go home. The outburst took you off guard. By the time he was done wailing, Cove's chest was heaving with exhaustion. He sniffled and removed his glasses, wiping out his eyes with the back of his hand before he put them back on again. I hate this place. I want my real life back. I want my mom. Aw. Your dad seems kind of nice. I think we should say I'm sorry, right? He slipped his hands underneath his glasses and pressed his fingers against his eyelids. Cove wound himself up again for another long crying fit. I felt bad for him, being forced to come here with no choice. Yeah. I feel like I was in a similar situation growing up, and it's not easy. I couldn't imagine what it would feel like to live with only one of your moms, but it must be pretty hard. But from way off in the distance, you hear your parents. Bish. Kids, where'd you go? Don't tell them we're here. I don't want to go back to the house. You can handle it. I wish there was a way we could be like another option where we can just like hang out. Dusting the grass off your pants, you stood up. So you didn't come here by yourself or with a stranger. He's got to take care of you no matter what. His dad's voice rang out again. He looked toward the sound of his dad's voice, silent, then turned away while rubbing his not-bandaged arm.
Sorry.
You still don't want to go. I think we'll wait silently with him. Before you could answer, you heard Cove's dad even closer than before. Ooh, is this our moms? Both your moms were at your side in a split second, faces filled with worry. You're here after all. At the park, checked for Cove and then heard what happened earlier when you met the new neighbor. Thought you might have gone further away. I mean, everybody's acting like it's a big thing because you're 8 years old. You shouldn't be running off to begin with. We should say we're okay, don't worry. He looked over at Cove, who was wiggling against his dad's tight hug and pushing out his arms. Oh guys, I'm getting a call real quick. Sorry. I'll be right back. So while I eat my pizza, I'm gonna be silent for a little while. It shouldn't take me too long, but we're just gonna kind of move along with this story. Alright. Sorry, I just seen these options. We're just gonna we're just gonna marry him? My goodness. This is moving along quite fast.
That's a relief.
Bye.
That was the cutest little bye. Okay, this is an important step. How do we feel about code so far? Well, we are... I think we are pretty... I wish we would have been able to change the eyebrows. Kind of indifferent. And relax. Oh, I see now. I think that's good. Oh, wait, we won't be able to change it? I think we should feel relaxed then. Okay.
Oh. Neat. Hmm. Um. Hmm. Hi. Hi. Can I do it too? Hmm. guess. Awesome. Aw. Ah. Yeah.
Alright guys, I accidentally hit a button. And I have no clue how to fix it. Because I don't know what button I hit.
Self-voicing enabled, self-voicing disabled.
Oh my. Oh, there we go. Okay. I'll be right back. I gotta get a drink. I ate a really spicy pizza. Alrighty. So far we've met Lizzie and Shiloh, which I guess are our friends. We're introducing Cove. So yeah, let's get back to the story. You were used to being left out when it was just the three of you, but now Cove was here. Aw. You weren't sure if this was an improvement though. Oh, she's cute. Welcome to my park. Nobody ever comes to play here, so this is where we get together. Oh, so it's her park. Got it. She gestured widely with her arms as if to present the area to the newcomer. Without interrupting Lizzie's speech, Cove whispered in her ear, quiet enough that others wouldn't overhear. I thought kids couldn't own places like parks or hills. He's a jokester, isn't he? While Lizzie continued talking, he took the chance to kick off your shoes and wrinkle your toes through the warm sand. In this neighborhood, I'm the one who comes up with the ideas. Who else could handle the job? Okay, Lizzie, you're a bit full of yourself. Lizzie is the oldest. My mom said you're Bish's age.
Yeah.
I'm still the only one in this group with double digits. What about other kids? Other kids? There aren't any? We're the only kids here and Shiloh is just visiting from another place. Huh. Not even tourists really bring their kids here. This is the land of ancients. Be careful that the oldies don't try to steal your youth. Oh. Oh, I hope he doesn't cry. He looked back at Lizzie. What kind of old people? Like moms and dads or grandparents? Grandparents who don't have kids. They hate kids. Why? We haven't done anything. Only some of them don't like kids. I'm sure not all of the grandparents here don't like kids. He didn't seem to care that Lizzie was there. Shiloh was the next one to speak, completely unaware of the situation. I met Lizzie and Bish in school. You'll see tons of kids there once summer is over. Okay, so there are other kids that live in this area. I don't want to go to a new school. I don't want summer to end. Who does as a kid? I mean, really. Shiloh looked down to the dirt. He hasn't had much luck striking up conversation with Cove. Oh, Shiloh's trying to relate to him.
Okay.
Welcome to Sunset Bird Cove. Take a seat, put up your feet, and get used to it. Cove was always there. He saw him more often than Shiloh, and on some days, even when she was in a bad mood or busy, he even saw him more than Lizzie. He became a staple of your everyday life, the way sun and lunch and the beach were. That first summer you had really been interested in him one way or the other. It was just kind of fact of life, someone you met with because he was there. Of course, that was only the start of things. Cute. Select a moment. Should we do shopping? I think fireflies would be really pretty, right?
All right.
Today we're gonna catch fireflies. Fireflies were a familiar sight over summer, coming out on warm nights to dance through the sky. Tonight was a particularly balmy. You knew there was bound to be a ton of them around. Who uses the word balmy? Let me know. They hadn't answered for sure yet, but if that's what Lizzie said you'd do, that's probably what you'd end up doing. Sounds like she gets a lot of what she wants in life. Lizzie was an expert at getting her way. Well, there you go. Having mastered the art of it by the time she could talk. That's a good idea, Lizzie. Can we, Mrs. Bish? Shiloh tapped his fork against the table excitedly, his face lighting up as he looked at Lizzie. It was unusual for Shiloh to still be here. Like always, his mom had to bring him over really early in the morning before her job started. But normally, she would have picked him up by now. She called before dinner to let your moms know she'd be late. You didn't hear why, probably more work things. You thought maybe getting to hang out with Shiloh for longer is what made Lizzie want to keep running around the outside. Staying at home and watching TV was never an option for her with guests over. That's why you're pretty sure she'd get your moms to agree.
Wow.
Lizzie gave Mom the best puppy dog eyes she could, slowly spooning mac and cheese into her mouth while you waited for their response. Your parents exchanged a look. Mom eventually sighed and nodded back. Yes. Okay.
Fine.
Just make sure you stay on the hill behind our house with all of the poppies, okay?
Duh.
The idea had only just been planted in your head, but already you could just picture all the glowing lights spread out in front of you, like the fairies from the bedtime stories Mommy reads sometimes. Can we talk about how beautiful our mothers are? Our moms are so pretty. Lizzie and Shiloh started digging into their food, and it soon became a race to see who could finish their dinner first.
Isn't that great?
Bish is just mad because I've always catch the most. Elizabeth. You know it's bad when your mother uses your full name, especially at the dinner table. A knock on the door interrupted Mom before she could no doubt scold your sister.
Huh?
You shifted in your seat to try and get a glimpse of the unexpected guest.
Hi.
Good evening, Cove. Your mommy had already walked to the door by the time you managed to see past Shiloh's floppy hat. You had no idea why he was here all of a sudden, but you supposed it wasn't worth worrying over. Instead, your eyes landed on Lizzie, who was looking at Cove like he had come here specifically to ruin all her plans. Then for a few seconds, Cove said nothing. He only stood there and looked up at your mommy with a face, almost like he considered turning around and leaving. My dad told me to drop this off, because I guess he borrowed it from you. Cove took a familiar screwdriver from out of his large side pocket, eyes now dropped to the floor. We left ours back home when we moved. Thank you. Why don't you come inside for a bit? Why is Lizzie trying to get rid of him? That's so rude. Cove shrugged and Mom stood from the table. I'll give your dad a call to let him know you got here all right.
Hi.
Shiloh gave Cove a friendly smile while waving by holding up his hand and opening and closing his fingers. Cove nodded in response. You might as well invite him, right? If Cove said no, you'd understand, though. Catching fireflies wasn't something that everyone liked to do. Who doesn't like catching fireflies as an 8-year-old?
Okay.
He's never caught one before, guys. It's too bad he didn't have a chance before now. The fireflies weren't out when he first moved in, and there must have not have been anyone he used to live. He can't go out until after dinner. After she pointed this out, Lizzie walked back to the table and took her seat. There wasn't much left on her plate. Since this was very true, you decided to finish up your own stuff as well. Cove stepped closer and eyed what was on the menu for your family's meal. Have you eaten yet? My dad and I ate earlier. They had eggs. I love breakfast for dinner. The clipped one-word answer seemed to discourage Shiloh from asking any more questions. His eyes slowly wandered back to the last scraps of food on his plate.
Okay.
Your dad said you can stay for a little while if you'd like, but he's going to come get you before it gets too much later.
Fun.
It's fine, Mom. Hi. Yeah, the stream's going well. We're just doing a visual novel tonight. I've never done one before. How are you doing tonight?
Bye.
The two of you were a good 10 or 15 feet behind Lizzie and Shiloh by the time you walked outside. You pushed the door shut behind you, watching their figures get further and further away.
Hurry up!
You're so slow, Bish. We don't have all night. You started to run when you heard Lizzie's voice calling you, but paused when you saw Cove still walking at a relaxed pace. I think we tug him along. He hissed at us, guys. Oh, grabbed his cast arm. I wasn't even thinking about that. Oh, obviously. Go by ourselves. Couldn't help but feel bad as he rubbed his arm and refused to look at you. But since it didn't seem like he wanted you there, you did what he said and hurried off to the hill. There were already a lot of fireflies out, bobbing about like... That's so cute! Lindsay was standing on top. Shiloh was spinning in circles somewhere around the middle. Where's Cove? Looked behind you, wondering if you'd upset him enough to send him home. But a second later, he rounded the corner, looking around at all the fireflies. Wow. A firefly danced through the air, landing on Cove's sea green head. Covering your mouth with a hand, the sound escaped you, and Cove looked at you in confusion.
Oh.
Shiloh ran to the highest point of the hill, making sure not to lose his hat or backpack along the way. You hummed as the group divided and conquered, shifting your gaze to the dozens of other fireflies sailing around. The game was on. Why do we have a bandage? Oh, I guess because earlier we did that. Spotting one close by, you approached it with assassin-like stealth, crouching down to make yourself seem like less of a threat. Slowly dragging one foot in front of the other, you crept up towards it, arms outstretched. You closed your hands around the little glowing orb, careful not to crush it. The firefly landed on your palm, almost docile, and you stared down at your prize in delight. Its tiny legs tickled your skin, and you giggled at the sensation. Cove kept up with his own target, but he tried to grab his pink cast, waved awkwardly through the air, foiling his efforts to clap his hands around the firefly. Cove watched it as it vanished into thin air with a dissatisfied expression on his face. Cove didn't say anything, and he thought he must be upset. He walked further up the hill to continue his hunt, and you let your own firefly flutter back into the air. That was fine. You had your own plans. Quietly took a seat among the flowers. The others were jumping and dashing on the bough. You saw how many times they succeeded and failed, how Shiloh almost tripped a couple times. It was a dramatic show, though around you it was calm. The lights of the stars and the fireflies surrounded you peacefully. It was a beautiful night. You laughed quietly to yourself as you watched the others, and Shiloh finally managed to catch a firefly between his small hands. Hi Rance, how are you? We're doing a visual novel tonight. I've never done one before, so I figured I'd try it out. How are you tonight? His eyes lit up, and when he spread his fingers to take a peek at it, the bug escaped and flew off into the air. You watched as he pounced after it once more, but your eyes soon landed on Cove, who had failed to catch the firefly yet. I think we're gonna wait. You watched as he crept up on the unsuspecting bug, so slowly that for a moment you wondered if he was still moving at all. I just woke up a bit ago and found out my car is broken. That is fun. Oh man, that sucks. I hope it's not like too expensive to fix. Then he raised his hands toward one of the little bobbing balls of light, closing in on it ever so slowly.
No way.
Oh no. Oh, he got it. Drifting too high up for Cove to reach. Oh, he didn't get it. Never mind. While Cove returned to hunting fireflies, you settled for laying back against the soft grass, watching the poppies swaying around you and the fireflies hovering against the vast sky.
Come on!
We're gonna have a race. The shouting caught you off guard, and it had been quite a while since you heard from Lizzie or Shiloh. You glanced over to see them both standing on top of the hill again, Lizzie beckoning to you with quick hand gestures. She was like that. You knew there wasn't much room for disagreement. Up the incline you went. From the corner of your eye, you saw Cove was coming as well. Hold on, I need to get a drink. Alrighty. He didn't care for Lizzie a lot, so you thought he might be intrigued just by the idea of a race. Hi, Cove, you can't roll down the hill. You could hurt your arm again. You'll be the referee for the rest of us? While Lizzie pointed this out, Cove froze in place. It was that kind of race. He frowned down at his cast. That was the second time it got in the way tonight. Yeah, you'll watch and see who gets to the bottom first. That's important, got it?
I guess.
Aw, why can't they just do a regular race? The cast was sturdy. If he was careful, he could have done it. Lizzie might have been just looking for a reason to make someone else the referee. But it was already decided. Got into position for the race. Let's stay with Cove. I'm gonna get into position. He's probably still mad at us. Satisfied with this, Lizzie moved to lay down, and Shiloh did the same. Cove stood slightly to the side to get a better vantage point. It seemed like he was taking his newfound referee duties seriously, as he should. Okay, you quickly got into position as well, resting your side in the grass and tucking your arms close to your chest. Three, 2, 1, go! The three of you took off, letting gravity do the work and rolling at high speeds towards the bottom. You squeezed your eyes shut, a delightful laugh leaving you, and consequently allowing a few blades of grass to hit into your mouth. Ew. You spluttered, reaching up to wipe them away. It threw you off balance and sent you careening sideways. My goodness. I need to get situated. Okay. Everyone started too close together because a slight turn made you then Shiloh and then Lizzie collide into a heap. You tumbled down the last few feet in a pile. Shiloh's elbow was in your stomach, and you were pretty sure Lizzie's hair was in your mouth, but you had survived. Perhaps it wouldn't have been safe for Cove after all. Hi, Yobi. How are you? Welcome. We're doing a visual novel tonight. We're in the middle of a race, apparently. You could hear him laughing in the distance. When you opened your eyes, you saw the starry sky above and Cove still on top of the hill, staring down at the three of you with an amused look on his face. I'm good, how are you? Oh, I'm doing well. I've never done a visual novel before, so I thought it'd be fun. Cool crash. I think Shiloh was the first at the bottom. They need a redo. Oh, our mom is getting onto us. You sighed, not knowing if it was from the contentment or exasperation, and closed your eyes again. It had gotten late and it was beginning to feel just a bit chilly as you made your way out of the hills, but the cold in the air hadn't dampened anyone's spirits. The four of you walked back home together, side by side, down your neighborhood street, discussing the evening, with each person trying to prove that they were the one who caught the most fireflies. You knew that whoever really did catch the most didn't matter much anyway. All that mattered was that you all had a good time, which, judging by the smiles on everyone's faces, you did. Oh, cute! Should we end the summer or can... I think we should go shopping, right? I forget what they say about the summer ended. I mean, I think we should complete all these moments, right? Or do they continue as we grow older? I'm not very sure about that. I remember reading it, but I've got goldfish brain or something. I can't ever remember things when I'm on stream. We'll go shopping. The familiar voice drifted across the street and drew your attention away from the snail you'd been watching inch slowly across the pavement. Cove waited in front of his dad, pushing his green hair back off his face from where the breeze was blowing it over his glasses. He looked to be paying only a mild amount of attention as he was being handed a few slips of green paper. It reminded you of when you first met Mr. Holden, although he's probably not paying Cove to be friends with himself. Oh yeah, his dad tried to pay us to be his friend, which I thought was a little odd. Cove's dad seemed to feel your gaze somehow, or maybe you made a noise because a second later his eyes were on you. He waved you over with a smile. Yeah, he is kind of a sus dad. He looked happy to see you, but you still felt a little weird for getting caught. You've got to learn how to be more sneaky. You brushed your hands together to free them of sand, then jogged over to join the two.
How's it going?
Good to see you again. What excitement are you up to, Davish? Taking a walk. I found a pretty good, cool snail across the road. There's a lot of snails around here. Okay. Mr. Holden grinned at you kindly. After you finished answering the question, Mr. Holden's attention returned to Cove, who was preoccupied with folding the bills he had a tiny rectangle. Cove was about to hit the stores by the beach. Why don't you go with him? He was going to go shopping by himself? Cove was in the process of making a similar motion. You didn't have anything else to do, and you hadn't been to the stores in a few days. Maybe there was something new to look at.
I guess.
I was going in by myself, but I guess it is. You don't have to. Well, I mean, when he puts it that way, I don't want to go. I'm sure you guys will have loads of fun. Mr. Holden reached into his pocket and pulled out a leather wallet filled with money. You found it odd since your moms only ever seemed to have cards in theirs. I mean, is it odd for people to be carrying cash? I carry cash sometimes. I don't think it's very odd. He leaned in to pass a crisp 10 to Cove, giving him a wink and a whisper. Ew, that is sus. Get something for your friend too. I mean, that's sweet, but also sus.
Good kid.
That's my boy. Cove's dad ruffled his son's hair as he was straightening back up, the bill in his hand still held out towards the green-haired boy. Cove accepted the bill after a second and slipped it into his pocket. Then, with one last nod to his dad, he turned and started walking. You followed after him, intrigued at the possibilities this outing might bring. Cove strayed towards this gentle tide creeping up in the sand, and you fell into a place beside him. It was a nice day. I think we need to report a certain dad for sus activity. Yeah, definitely. From the beginning, he's been pretty sus with us. He was like waiting outside my front door at the beginning. It was very odd. It was a nice day. The sun was shining and there weren't many clouds in the sky, though the wind coming off the ocean kept it from being too hot. You took in a deep breath, enjoying the scent of salt and ocean air. When you looked at Cove, he was dragging his feet through the sand a little, and you slowed down to wait for him. His eyes searched the ground intently. Are you looking for snails? We'll ask, what is it? We'll be nosy. Nothing. Ugh. He kept staring down at the ground. You bit down on your lip a little, wanting to say something else, but not knowing what. The comforting sound of the waves filled the silence with pleasant white noise, and you played a little game with yourself as you walked along, getting as close to the water as possible without getting wet. It resulted in you having to run up the sand quickly when a wave rushed in, more than a few times. And although Cove threw a few glances your way, he didn't say a word. He needs a new sand pail.
Whoa.
It just disappeared. Oh, he probably left it when he was moving. How did it happen? Tell us, Cove. Cove opened his mouth and shut it again, considering. I took it to the beach one day. And when I got home, it wasn't anywhere. You left it there? Nope, I wasn't at the beach when I went back. Then you lost it. It disappeared.
So...
What about you? What do you do out here? What do we like doing? Oh, I like to build sandcastles. Sometimes they have sandcastle building competitions down by the boardwalk. You smiled at Cove. Maybe the two of you would build one together one day. Aww. Once you reached this shopping area, the noise level grew exponentially. No longer just waves and footsteps, but the chatter of people enjoying the lovely summer day. The call of birds trying to find bits of food left behind, and lots of salespeople trying to get attention. You sniffed the air as you walked beside the cove. You could still smell the ocean, but there were other scents now too. Pretzels, pizza, hot donuts. How old is this dude? Cove is like 8 years old. We're children right now. I guess we're supposed to grow with the characters. The dad, I have no clue. It's alright. There was a lot going on, but it beats staying at home and doing nothing at all. You were sure that you and Cove could find something to fill the day if you looked around a bit. Yeah, so we start out in childhood. Apparently there's like chapters, and you kind of like grow up with this person. So I think it's cute. Cove was glancing from side of the street to the other with a look in his aquamarine eyes that you couldn't quite work out. Again with the aquamarine. This feels like a Wattpad story. Cove pointed to a large crowd of people gathered near a few tables with large, colorful umbrellas blooming from their middles. You couldn't see past the adults who were blocking the way, but you knew there must be something worth seeing. Without another word, the two of you hurried over to see what all the commotion was about. Feast your eyes on the amazing Alexander. In the center of the crowd was a man with a tall hat and a funny green coat that had 3 long tails. There was a little table next to him with a cloth hanging over it that read The Amazing Alexander in glittery golden script. Why tell people his name if it's already on a sign? Cove hummed with understanding, then turned to walk away just as the amazing Alexander began shuffling a deck of cards. Maybe we could stay and watch. Cove glanced back at the man, then he briefly lifted his arm up off his sides before returning them to place. You grinned, waving for him to follow you as you raced back to stand in the crowd. With that, it began. The magic man pulled one card out of the deck, showing it to the curious onlookers. It was a 4 of diamonds. Watch closely. You did, squeezing through a few of the adult onlookers to get a better view. Suddenly, the man snapped his fingers, and the card just disappeared. Oh, like his sandcastle pail, or his little sand bucket. The amazing Alexander, who had earned his title, turned his head and looked directly at you. He reached out with a kind smile. Nothing? You smelled like popcorn and candy when he stepped closer, and you wrinkled your nose in confusion as you watched him. You felt a tug, and then he pulled the 4 of diamonds out from behind your ear. You knew that it couldn't really have come from your ear, but you still didn't get how he'd done it. There was a light applause from the crowd, and the man gave a deep bow. This is for you. magician plucked a pair of balloons from the clump of them and tied down to his table. Both were in the shape of a dolphin, instead of being a normal circle. And one for your friend too. Thank you for being my assistant. Now you're really grateful he chose you. After that, he went to someone else in the crowd. My uncle does that every time he visits. Not the balloons, the stuff with cards. Cove spoke plainly while reaching over to take the dolphin that had been designated for him. Aw, okay. The crowd started to clear some, and you noticed the side was a whole rack of brightly colored kaleidoscopes on display. You shifted your balloon string to the other hand so you could hold it up in front of you. Concentrate and ask again. You wrinkled your nose and set the magic 8-ball back on the rack. It wasn't the answer you were hoping for. He went under the awning, careful of his own floating dolphin, and you joined him. Are you having fun? Cove didn't answer straight away, and after a few more moments, you thought he wasn't going to say anything at all. A little. When Cove moved towards some stalls nearby, you followed him. Oh, cute! While Cove looked at the same pails, you were drawn up to a table with colorful keychains laid out on it. They were sewn in the shape of sea creatures, and there was a plaque that read, "Handmade," standing proudly out front. There were lots of different types, and you saw a dolphin, a shark, a crab, and a turtle. I think the turtle would be really cute. Either that or the crab. I think the turtle would be cute. Your hand stopped on the sleeping turtle. It's barely poking its head out of the shell. It had flecks of metallic green on its back that caught the sunlight when you picked it up. You remember the turtles you had seen in the movie. You had been mesmerized by the way it gently glided through the water. You were instantly enamored. Checking the price though, your heart fell. $6. You didn't know much about money, but you thought that was a lot to spend on one thing. You rarely had more than a $5 bill to your name. Same. Is that what you want? It's $6. I didn't bring any money. You don't have to. Cove didn't mind that. He took the keychain from your hands, and that was that. He was holding a small yellow bucket for himself, too. His dad told him to. It was nice of Cove's dad to let Cove buy something for you, too. You had to remember to thank him the next time you saw him. After Cove paid, the two of you stepped out in the store side by side, your balloon dolphins knocking together and spiraling around in the air. You watched Cove hold up his new pail to his face, examining it thoroughly. I like this keychain. Looking at the sea creature with impassive eyes, Cove looked further down the street where different food carts were lined up. He rested his non-cast arm over his stomach, and just as he did, yours let out a light growl. You hadn't eaten since breakfast, and after all this was wandering around, you were definitely ready for some lunch. Yes, Yomi, my name is Bish. I decided that was my name for today. My last name is also Bish. After After passing up hot dogs, snow cones, ice cream, and pizza, you both agreed on pretzels. Ooh, pretzels are my favorite too. Cove got something sweet and cinnamony, and you got one with cheese, definitely. Bish squared. Yes. You licked your lips hungrily as the vendor handed your pretzel over, ready to take a big bite. It was covered in gooey, melted cheese, just the way you like it. It seemed odd to get a dessert pretzel before eating normal food. You found an empty table close enough to the beach that the grit of the sand made terrible noises when you dragged the chairs to sit down. Cove placed his bucket on the table as he stared at his still balled up hand that was wrapped around the string. You opened your mouth to agree before an idea hit you. After carefully placing your pretzel somewhere it wouldn't get sandy, you tugged the balloon dolphin out of Cove's hand and tied it in a delicate bow around his wrist.
Oh,
Cove bounced his arm up and down in place, testing the stability of your knot. After watching his balloon jostle around but remain attached, he smiled, satisfied. I guess he didn't think to tie it somewhere, huh? He repeated the ritual. Cove struggled somewhat with the cast, restricting his fingers on one hand and a string already tangled around the other.
okay.
The two of you spent a moment admiring your handiwork, both hands now free to allow easy munching on your pretzels. You bit into the doughy treat, savoring the taste on your tongue with a smile as you look out over the ocean. After a time, you finished your pretzel. You were done before Cove. It was boring not having anything to do. You pulled up on the string of your balloon to bring it down to your level. Then you held the dolphin in your hands, manipulating it to make it look like it was jumping through the air. You turned to face towards the beach. It almost looks like it was swimming in the waves like a real dolphin. A laugh came from your side. When you glanced back at Cove, he had left the remaining part of his pretzel on the wrapper, and he was gripping his dolphin too. Merryweather, as in Sleeping Beauty, her little fairy godmother. They star in movies. She's actually an alien? What is with these dolphins? They're just a regular dolphin. Okay. I like she's actually an alien. When no one is looking, she transforms back into her true alien self. She has purple skin and 10 eyes. You sighed, wishing you could meet a real-life alien. Cove considered this question, placing the balloon against the table and resting his free arm across it in contemplation. With a loud pop, the dolphin exploded into ribbons. He said. For a second, all Cove did was gape in shock, like you. Then his cheeks puffed up, squinting his eyes, and you saw tears start to glisten. Aw, he's so emotional. I think we could offer him our balloon, right? I don't want yours. Well then. We felt bad for Cove, but we're secretly glad. You really liked the little dolphin and weren't too eager to give it up. Cove spent the rest of the outing sniffling and didn't say much else. The passing of Cove's balloon was the last major event of your adventure. In the end, the two of you headed back late that afternoon. You separated on the beach, and while Cove went straight home with his brand new sand pail in hand, you decided to sit for a while. You watched the waves and the sunset, fiddling with your new keychain. Another summer day was drawing to a close. It had been nice, for the most part. Hopefully there wouldn't be any tears next time. Yeah, I feel like every time we see Cove, like, we make him cry somehow. Like, not even trying, he just starts crying. He's very sensitive. Should we do the sand castle or the long day? I think we should do sand castles since we just did the beach shopping day. Cove wasn't able to do many things that summer. When you, him, and Shiloh sat out on the shoreline one bright morning, you can tell he wanted to be in the water. But there was no way. The waves washed a single shell to shore, glittering in blue, another reminder of the places he couldn't go. From what you'd hear about Cove's old life so far, in tiny pieces and fragments, you could tell he'd do anything to be able to get cast off. Oh, get his cast off. Like, make a pact with a witch or something, just to get it off his arm. I mean, I relate to Cove. I had my head glued for a whole summer because I bashed it open on a corner of a furniture, and I couldn't swim for an entire summer. He thought about how this summer last year must have been totally different from this, with his old home and his mom and dad. But now he was here, with you and Shiloh and Lizzie and everyone else, and he couldn't even go in the sea. This town wasn't bad, it had all your favorite things in it, but sitting there on the same beach you'd grown up on, you could understand that not everybody else felt the same way about Sunset Bird as you did. You watched him from the corner of your eye quietly, and you finally said aloud what you had been pondering. I wish I could go in. The water? Yeah. Aw.
Oh,
You're gonna be able to soon. Cove only sighed in response. Apparently soon wasn't soon enough. It's so pretty, the ocean. And huge. There could be anything out there, like mermaids.
yeah.
Do we say mermaids aren't real? I don't think so. I wish you didn't have a cast. Obviously not interested in hearing much more of your input on the situation, Cove turned back to the water. We just cannot say the right things, can we? But as he looked away, something about Shiloh's slow, careful movements caught his eye. Hey, are you building a sandcastle? Sort of. I was only playing around while you were talking. I'm listening. Maybe I could too. I've only made big piles before. It's nothing special. I'm sure you'll be good at it right away. Shiloh's cheeks lit up. You could tell he was a little bit uncomfortable to have Cove's expectant stare on him. I'll play too. I love making sand stuff. He put his hands back to his seashells and sand and nodded. I don't do a lot. Here's how I like to get a house started. Focusing more intently than you'd ever seen him, guided Cove through his process. You happily used your own method. It didn't take long for the three of you to each have humble structures prepared. That's all, kind of. You can do anything now, like make it bigger, add some seashells, carve a pretty pattern. I bet you have great ideas.
Okay.
I'm gonna make it bigger. Mine is gonna be a real castle.
Cool.
Looking at the base of your sandcastle, you decided to make... I mean, they're already making a castle and a house. So... I'm gonna make a mansion. Obviously. I'm gonna one-up all of them. The better part of the next hour was spent focusing on your own work. The boys were the same. Even Shiloh didn't sneak as many peeks at everyone else as he usually did. You finished shaping before either of them did, glancing up from what you built. Seems you got done so fast because they already searched around for extra decorations. Shiloh had grabbed most of the really interesting stuff, and Cove had a lot of shells, but there were still options. First thing you reached for was... I think we should do the seashell, because we shouldn't pick up glass. The blue color of it still reminded you of the clear water. You put it in a funny place where it'd take a second to look and see it. Pleased with your result, you finally took a proper look around that wasn't focused on the sand itself. Actually, our mansion over here is looking pretty good for an 8-year-old doing it. Both Cove and Shiloh seemed super immersed still. You knew you could probably sneak a peek at either one's work. I want to check out Cove's. The castle Cove had built looked surprisingly tiny, especially for someone in the cast. He must have worked really hard. He wasn't even finished digging the huge, gaping moat in front, but it was already enormous. You got the sense from the enthusiasm he was digging with that the doctor was probably going to find a bunch of sand when he finally removed the pink plaster. There's something shiny sticking out of Shiloh's sand chimney. It's a gum wrapper.
Neat.
I didn't think of that. Can I see what you did? All you really knew about mansions was that they were supposed to be big, so you'd gone really big. It was the size of the country club that Lizzie played golf at compared to Cove and Shiloh's buildings. Probably even bigger. Wait, our older sister, she's like 10 and she plays at a golf country club? Oh my goodness. Shiloh quickly decided to jump in the conversation.
No.
If something is the only one of that thing, that makes it special. Yeah, for sandcastles and stuff. People too. My dad always says how everybody is their own man, a real individual. I don't think I'm very special. Aw, that's so sad to hear Shiloh say that.
Why?
I'm not different. My dad tried to get me to make sandcastles the first time we came to this beach. Shiloh shifted and opened his mouth to say something, but Cove spoke up before he could. He didn't think he noticed that Shiloh was going to talk. Do you know what happened when your moms met my dad? I waited to see if Shiloh would say what he wanted to. When he didn't, you considered Cove's question. I wasn't there. They didn't tell me. I just remember what happened when I met your dad. Yeah, when he stalked us outside of our house. Mr. Holden had been a weird stranger then. Well, he was still kind of strange. No other parent acted like him. But you knew him better at this point. Now that you thought about it, it made a lot of sense that Cove's dad talked to him about people being unique. You were pulled from your thoughts when Cove continued. I don't think my mom has met your dad. Yeah, I'm pretty sure she hasn't. Bish's parents and my dad met the same day I met her. I'm gonna say what happened. His hat cast a shadow over his face. You could tell he was upset at not being included in Cove's choice of topic. It was kind of boring for him though, giving people their own turn to say things they want is important too. I think we should just let him finish his story so then Shiloh can say what he wants. Shiloh could talk about stuff after Cove had the chance to share what he had planned on. When we moved here, we didn't plan to bring a lot of things with us, only some stuff that would fit in Dad's car. We didn't even get a moving truck. I sat in there while Dad brought it all inside. I didn't want to get out because I knew Dad would make me look around the new house. I really didn't want to do that. His lips twisted into a frown as he recalled. Then I saw your moms. They were in a car too and stopped at your house. I guess they were coming back from somewhere or something. My dad noticed. He waved his hand, then went over to the front of your house where he started talking to them. I don't know what they said, I couldn't hear, but he couldn't see me anymore since he was looking the other way. So I opened the car door and left. I wanted to get away and went behind the houses. I found those hills there, the ones where we met the first time. Cove nodded, then stared at you. You stared back. You didn't go on to say anything more. Aren't you going to finish your story? Like you didn't understand why you were surprised. That was it? That was the whole story? That was how our parents met? I didn't make the story up? Who was just not understanding the issue here? Shiloh's mouth twisted into a scowl of disbelief, but he said nothing. Why'd you bring that up anyway? There was a slight shrug of Cove's shoulders.
Well,
I was thinking about it because of the sandcastle. It made me remember when I moved to here. Dad showed me the beach first before we went back to the car to unpack. He was really excited about it for some reason. Cove's brows furrowed a little more as he quietly raked his hands through the sand. He thought maybe Mr. Holden wasn't excited about the beach and was instead hoping Cove might be. But the line of conversation had come to its end. Even Cove was done with it. Some other topic had popped into his head. Shiloh fidgeting uncomfortably in the sand and made Cove aware of his presence again. They looked at each other and you could only wonder what this might be about. Why are you always turning so red, even when nothing is happening? Clearly startled, he jerked back. Neither you or Shiloh had expected that to be how he got included in the conversation. I don't know, I guess. It's kind of weird. Man, Cove is really blunt about everything. Shiloh's eyes were wide with embarrassment and his lips twitched, and he was blushing even harder than before. Maybe it wasn't only this. Perhaps it was simply the last straw, but it was a big deal to Shiloh. A huge deal. He didn't just look sad, he seemed almost panicked. You weren't sure if he was about to cry or run away or what, but you soon got an answer. So why do you wear glasses? Most kids don't wear glasses and nobody is named Cove. Aw, so he's getting mad.
where's Cuticum?
It was probably just your dad bugging Bish's family some more because you don't have anyone else who will ever play with you. Okay. Tension on the beach was suddenly uncomfortable in a way you didn't know how to laugh off. It didn't seem like the kind of thing you'd get upset about, though you had never known what kind of thing would bother Shiloh. Aw, they're both sorry. At least they worked it out quickly. So that was getting weird. Let's build another sandcastle. We all went back to making more sand buildings, but the whole mood had changed. Shiloh's cheeriness was gone, and Cove looked as confused as ever about why the other boy had blown up. The air stayed uncomfortable the rest of the afternoon, right up to the moment that Shiloh's mom appeared at the beach to take him home. At least she tried to do something to resolve it, though, and it seemed like it helped. Even though Shiloh's smile when he said goodbye to Cove wavered, it stayed as bright as ever for you. Aw. That had to count for something. But when Shiloh gone and the sun going down, you knew it was time for you and Cove to head to your own houses. The two of you trailed out of the park together toward the neighborhood. The walk home was quiet. You passed by familiar landmarks, shoes thumping against the sidewalk in near perfect unison. Cove was clearly caught up in thinking about something. Hey Cove, is everything okay? You're making a funny face. Why'd Shiloh act like that when I said he was all red about? He gets embarrassed, I think, is safe to say. It might have upset him anyway. I guess I can get it. Why he would do that. Sometimes I get really mad too. Despite seemingly coming to a conclusion, Cove's mood was still sour. What Shiloh said didn't make any sense anyway. Parents always talk to other parents and set up stuff so their kids play together. My dad didn't do anything weird. He struggled not to make a face at that. His dad definitely did something weird to try and get you to spend time with Cove. Yeah. Tried to pay us to be your friend. I think I'm glad that we didn't take the money at this point. Should we tell him that his dad's being weird? Because I feel like it'll come up later anyway. So we should just get it over with. Remember how you were talking to your parents and I didn't know what happened? I kind of had something happen that you don't know about when I met your dad. As you struggled on the words, Cove looked at you passively. You wanted to turn away, but you kept your eyes on his as you spoke. I was walking home and your dad was sitting in front of the house. It must have been after you ran away. My moms weren't there either. I think they were looking for you. Your dad saw me. He got up and came over. Mr. Holden told me that he just moved into the house next to mine. Cove was still listening, his expression plain as before. He paused for a moment, wondering if you should really keep going. I think we should tell him. I think it's weird that his dad did that. But I also feel like Cove might not let us finish what we're saying, and then he might get mad at us and think we took the money. Even if it was supposed to be a secret, you thought Cove should still know. Your dad thought that you might be lonely here, so he wanted me to be your friend. He said he'd give me $20 if I did. No sound left him. The line stretched between you so tense that it made you almost tangible. You shifted from one foot to the other and your hands tensed up. Instead of speaking, he closed his mouth. His eyebrows bent up, crinkling his forehead. He looked more sad than surprised now. He was going to cry. You were certain of it. I didn't take it, the money. I didn't want it. Honest. Cove raised his hand and brought them under his glasses. His fingers pressed over his eyes, hiding them from your sight. Then, right in the middle of the street, the tears began to fall. His shoulders shook with the force of his sobs. You could glimpse wetness through the cracks of his fingers, slipping down his cheeks. It's okay. You couldn't go anywhere with Cove in this state, but Cove shook his body from side to side, rejecting your presence.
No.
You flinched at the shout. As you stood there, listening to him cry, you felt... You didn't want Cove to be upset, you just wanted to be honest. Cove continued to weep as his face covered by his hands. Worse, his voice raised in volume. You were frozen in place. The situation was awful and you kept feeling worse every second. Should we start crying too? I think we should cry too. Maybe we'll bond. Kids, am I right? I know. I don't know how to react with kids. I don't know. I think we should start crying too. We'll get on the same level. You didn't know what to do to stop Cove from crying. You began to panic. Before you realized it, your eyes were misting over, then you were crying with him. You couldn't stop. You heard a door opening and you flinched, expecting to see one of the mean old grandparents preparing themselves to yell at you. What is with these grandparents, man? At this hour, most people weren't around, either because they were working or down in the town, but the grandparents rarely left the house, except to complain at children making noise in the street. With the ruckus Cove was making, you could kind of understand why they might have objections, even if he couldn't help it. But the door that stood open now didn't belong to the grandparents. To your utter surprise and relief, it was Cove's own. His dad was already home. As he peeked out his door, Mr. Holden momentarily looked unsure. Perhaps he had suspicions on the noise outside, but wasn't entirely positive. Though a kid crying is pretty distinct, and there aren't a lot of kids. Maybe he didn't want to believe something might be wrong with his son. His face fell as he spotted the source of the commotion. It was pained and it was scared, and it reminded you of one he'd worn the first night you met Cove. Mr. Holden didn't go down the steps in front of his house. He just jumped over them and stumbled into a run. He skidded to a stop before Cove, bent down on one knee, and then solidly cupped Cove's teary face with his hands.
What's wrong?
Are you hurt anywhere? Cove continued to cry, unable or unwilling to cough out an explanation. Not taking his hands from Cove, Mr. Holden turned to you for explanation, his eyes wide and imploring. He was asking if you'd make me hang out with him. You did, so I told Cove how you wanted to give me money to be his friend. Oh no, now we're telling the dad. As you spoke, Mr. Holden's chest rose while he inhaled deeply, a shaky breath culminating in a gasp at your final words.
What?
He does not get to be upset with us. He shouldn't be paying kids in the first place. It's not how you get your kid to get friends. He faced his crying son again. It's my fault. I shouldn't have done something like that in the first place. He cast his eyes down, sighing. When he spoke, it wasn't part of the conversation anymore. It was barely loud enough for you to catch his words. I mean, yeah, he shouldn't have done that. I mean, I feel kind of bad now that we told him, but I feel like I don't know. As an 8-year-old, you don't want to find out later on down the line that your dad was paying people to be your friend. I mean, at least he knows that we didn't take the money, right? Bish is only a kid? What, does he think Cove is blaming us, or is he blaming us? Tears were still streaming down Cove's face. Smiling sadly, Mr. Holden wiped Cove's cheeks with a thumb. He furrowed his brows and looked at the ground. When he next glanced up, his mouth was set with determination. Mr. Holden finally took his hands off Cove. He reached for his wallet, confused, stared down at the little rectangle that the adults seemed to carry in some shape or form. It hadn't been the source of all these problems. He was sure that Cove wouldn't want to be reminded of it right now. Mr. Holden was clearly of a different mind than you. He inexplicably retrieved another $20 bill, rolled it up, and raised it to Cove's face. Cove's eyes were hidden behind tightly clamped fingers, so Mr. Holden poked Cove's nose with the bill. Cove peeked his hand and grunted as he saw what he had been prodded with. Even if it was surrounded by sobs, you were glad that something else had finally left Cove's mouth. Wait, don't tell me he's gonna try and bribe his kid to stop crying. Please tell me there's a positive message to this.
Come on.
Can you stop crying? I'll give you cash if you do. What in the world? Cove dropped his hands from his face. It had already been red and wet with tears, but now his features were scrunched up in a scowl. Not for the first time. You questioned Mr. Holden's tactics. Yeah. You can't just pay your kid to feel something. But Cove firmly shoved his dad's own hand away. He just chuckled and tossed the money aside. It unfurled as it flew through the air, rising before slowly drifting to the floor. Sir Holden took Cove's outstretched wrist and lowered them to Cove's sides, stopping him from hiding his face again. Cove's dad clearly wasn't going to let go. Huffing, Cove turned his whole head away. Tears continued to roll down his cheeks and glowered at the ground. You can buy a lot of cool things with that, but it can't do everything, can it? Cove didn't respond, not even to look at his father. Mr. Holden continued. Your old dad likes to make things nice for you with the money he earns, but you're smart. You know that I haven't really done anything.
I'm sorry.
I still make you sad and upset, just like right now. I'm sorry. The harsh line of his brow mellowing, Mr. Holden squeezed Cove's hand as he continued. Bish is smart too, right? You have nothing to worry about. Except for me. Cove pressed his lips together, mulling over his father's words. Though the stream of tears had eased, drops still budded in his eyes and threatened to spill out. I love you, son, so much, more than anybody else. Sometimes that makes me a little too hasty to see you happy, and I will make it all worse. I am really sorry. When his eyes opened again, they were red and glossy, but there were no tears left on the precipice of his lower lashes. Aside from the occasional sniff, he was mostly back to his usual self. He swallowed.
Okay.
Though Cove had refused to echo Mr. Holden's exact words, the sentiment seemed to be enough for his dad. He moved his hands up under Cove's armpits and hoisted Cove into the air with a grin. Cove's hands flew to his glasses, holding them back from falling off. Mr. Holden might have missed it, but you didn't. At least he's okay now. Can I go back down now?
Yeah.
Mr. Holden set Cove gently on the ground, waiting until his feet found their foot before releasing him entirely. As Cove wandered away, Mr. Holden's gaze stuck to him like glue. You sighed, eyes downcast. You felt weird that you'd only been able to stand there while the event unfolded. You weren't able to fix it. The first part, anyway. There's only so much you can do to fix someone else's mistake. I mean, I guess that's true. You found plenty for Cove. Just the fact that you were honest with him when his own dad wasn't proves it. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
That's a relief.
Thanks for being such a good kid. I hope you keep spending time with the boy. As though the sound of his name summoned him, Cove returned, clutching the bill his dad had cast aside earlier. You cocked your head and Cove's dad raised his eyebrows. Cove looked at the crumpled note and then walked over and held it out to you. He gave you a small smile. Behind him, Mr. Holden was still watching Cove closely. Clearly relieved, you shared the feeling. Cove was making peace with the deal that happened behind his back. It's a pretty grown-up thing to do. I think we should still decide not to take it. Another stalemate. He took the bill from Cove and tore it right in two and gave you and Cove gasp in unison. Yeah, you just ripped a $20 bill, my dude. Now you can split it? Oh my gosh. Maybe he is a dad. It still has value as keepsake, a memory. That's one of the most valuable things you can use money on.
So,
Wordlessly, Cove stretched out a hand and took his half. You took yours, running a finger along the jagged edge of the bill. Mr. Holden stood up, stretching his arms out casually. Well then, it's about time for dinner. Me and the Rugrat need to be going in. You probably should too. I bet your moms want to see you.
Bye.
thanks very much.
Father and son waved at you as you turned and dashed back home, the note clenched tightly in your hand. We'll do long day. Everyone else had something on, so the afternoon was just you and Shiloh. This didn't happen much, especially since Cove had arrived. How does it make us feel? Nothing really. Shiloh went along with whatever you wanted, so he wasn't a bother, but he also wasn't that much fun. Just calling out Shiloh. You drained yet another drink and frowned at the empty vessel. Your thirst was gone, but you still craved something icy cold or refreshing, something sweet. Something like an ice cream sandwich, am I right? You craved soft ice cream sandwich between two cookies. There was nothing like that to be found at home. You knew that without needing to look. Your moms didn't keep sweets in the house. Oh man, I thought we had cool moms. Hold on, I gotta get a drink. Does Shiloh have money? They have just over $1 in coins. It's a start. I think we should be positive. $2.53. You didn't know when the second button had decided to join the party, but you were too pleased with your successful haul to throw it out. You could now afford something at the shops, just one thing, but that was infinitely better than none. Shiloh clapped his hands. The two of you dashed outside, the promise of sugar. Look how cute Shiloh is. Aww. You knew what you wanted, but it wasn't just you who had contributed to the funds to get the treat. Seemed to notice your pause. Aren't you getting an ice cream sandwich? I mean, we should try and get something we both wanted. It's mostly his money. But what do you really like? Popsicles or ice creams? Which is your favorite? And that was that. You got the dessert you originally wanted and hoped for, and hoped Shiloh liked it too. I think Shiloh's a bit shy. You bit the ice cream sandwich. The chewy chocolate biscuit complemented the creamy vanilla ice cream inside. Now I want ice cream. You held it out to Shiloh so he could take a turn. He shook his head. He doesn't want any of this.
It's okay.
Aww. It wasn't worth arguing further. The frozen treat was being worn away by the sun and starting to trickle dangerously towards your fingers. If you waited much longer, then neither of you would be getting to eat it. The two of you began to head back home as you ate. You offered the treat once more to Shiloh, but he refused again. You walked side by side on the shore in silence, but your thoughts kept drifting to the boy beside you. Why didn't he speak up for himself? It was almost as if Shiloh didn't know how to say what he felt, or he was too afraid. You thought that was kind of sad. Are we friends? Shiloh opened his eyes wide, seemingly caught off guard by the blunt question. Yeah, I think so. He says that, but friends should be able to talk to each other without being scared. If Shiloh wouldn't do that, were you even really friends at all? That's a fair question to ask. He rubbed his hands together nervously over your non-reaction.
Sorry.
You weren't sure how sorry you could be without knowing what he's even apologizing for, but you shook your head. You didn't do anything. It was true. Shiloh hadn't done something mean. He got out of his way to make you happy. That didn't seem like it should be a bad thing, yet it bothered you. I just don't know if you like me. It's like it doesn't matter what I do, you're gonna act the same. I could be anybody and you wouldn't care. He wants to be friends. He's just having a difficult time. You smiled hesitantly at him and fidgeting ceased. Even though you weren't sure if you believed him, this was only making things worse. You decided that maybe there were all types of friends. If Shiloh wasn't able to do things differently, this would have to be alright. Shiloh made you unsure about setting a label on the experience of spending the afternoon with just him. There had been good times and there had been confusing ones. You were positive of one thing at least. The treat was delicious and that was nice. The sun was low on the horizon as you returned to your neighborhood. There you spotted two very familiar figures up ahead, Lizzie and Cove. You opened your mouth to make your response, or your present known to them just as you saw the tears on Cove's face. You walked straight over, Shiloh at your heels. Defended Cove, took a moment to make a joke. Accused Lizzie, carefully asked what happened. I think we should ask what happened instead of, because Lizzie looks like she feels bad. Without a time machine, the only way you were going to find out was by asking the witness. Lizzie might have done something, but she could have been in the wrong place at the wrong time, or even come to Cove's aid. We wanted to hear the story. I got yelled at. He took a deep, steadying breath. Sorry guys, my dog's going off. Lizzie jerked her head in the direction of a nearby house. Your heart sunk. You knew exactly what had happened. Every year, the same mean old couple rented out that condo for the summer. You, Lizzie, and Shiloh knew to stay away from them, but Cove couldn't have. They're like that with everyone. Even your mom struggled to find anything nice to say about them, but the elderly pair particularly took offense to kiss. Lizzie drew herself up at that. She took pointedly in your direction. That's cool. Is there anything I can do?
No.
I'm just gonna stay away. Or you could teach them a lesson. There was a devilish glint in her eyes. You should ding-dong ditch them. Go ring the doorbell and run. It'll be great because they're slow. They'll never catch you. Yeah, those old grandparents, they'll never catch us kids. That's dumb. I don't want to go near them ever again.
We're just saying that because you're a chicken.
Cove glared but didn't take the bait. Lizzie turned to you. You're not a chicken, are you? I'll do it. You took a deep breath and nodded. Lizzie squealed with delight. We'll go hide. Run as you hit the bell. Lizzie and Shiloh ran across the road to take shelter in the bushes. Even once they'd settled down, you could make out two child-sized shapes staring from between the leaves. You knew where to look for them, though, and you told yourself that the old grouchy people wouldn't spot it. Cove sighed, his gaze flicking to the house and then back at you. Don't get caught. I'll be quick as a flash. You went to join Lizzie and Shiloh in their hideaway. The weight of the three pair of eyes on your back was heavier than anything you carried before as you approached the door. You hesitated as you reached the doorbell, then you ran it. You slapped the buzzer and ran. Blood thumped against your eardrums with every step. Would you make it on time? Approaching the hiding spot, you knew that there wasn't time to go around the bushes as the others had done. You took a shortcut, leaping over them. Or, to be more accurate, crashing into the top of the tree bushes and then falling over to the other side. Judging from the squeak, it was Shiloh who cushioned your fall. Lizzie put a finger on her lips and nodded at the house. You disentangled your limbs from Shiloh's and spun around to see the old man framed in the doorway, peering back and forth suspiciously. You covered your mouth with your hands, but it wasn't enough to stifle your giggles. Maybe he spotted one of you, or maybe it was the leaves you displaced while jumping. But he locked eyes with the bush and stormed over in your direction. Shiloh gasped and looked at Lizzie. Run. Your sister did not hesitate to take your own advice. Neither did you and Shiloh. Cove, with just one fully operational arm, took a little longer to get to his feet, but still caught up to Shiloh with ease. The old man's hollers propelled you all from the street to the sanctity of the hill. Only once were you safe did you notice a stitch in your chest and the ache of your legs. Oh. There we go. You flopped down, the blades of grass tickling your face. Lizzie, who had been taking the lead in the end, was already lazing on the ground. The four of you took a moment to catch your breath and enjoying the feel of the cold grass against your skin. I told you there were mean grandparents around here. Cove rolled his eyes and decided this wasn't dismissive enough and rolled his whole body away from your sister. Lizzie chose to ignore his response and started chatting to Shiloh, who eagerly joined in the conversation. In the back of your mind, you knew you'd be second fiddle again to Shiloh once Lizzie came around. It always went like that. It was fine, I guess. You closed your eyes, laid on your side, and relaxed. Some time passed with you like that. It felt good to take a real break. You moved onto your back with a small smile and looked at the darkening sky. The blanket of clouds reminded you of thick, and curled under on cold, rainy days. He wondered if the clouds could be as soft. They lazily floated on by, splitting from each other, merging and morphing into new shapes. What did we see, guys? I think an alpaca would be fun. Or, there's a dolphin theme, we should go with dolphin. He nudged Cove and pointed to it. Look, a dolphin. Cove joined you in a gazing skyward. Yeah, I see it. Really? No, but I like dolphins. He chuckled at your reaction. All the sun's lights faded from the sky and the moon rose higher. Lizzie got to her feet, dusting strands of grass from her bare legs, and surveyed her surroundings. The oceans visible from the crest of the hill beckoned with every sweep of the tide. Let's go to the beach. I think that's a Nicki Minaj song, am I right? There was no argument from the other two. Shiloh was still Shiloh, and Cove would never say no to going to the shore. He was a child of the sea. You? We're too tired to argue. It had been a long, hot day. You weren't bothered about going there, but you would rather do that than make a scene. You stepped onto the sand for the second time that day, but it felt different at night. The beach was nearly quiet at this hour. Abandoned sandcastles and footsteps in the sand, too big to belong to any of you, were the only indication of how busy it had been only hours earlier. 4 of you kicked shoes off and removed socks and walked along the water's edge. The waves tickled your feet. I wondered what would happen if you tried to take a bath in the ocean with shampoo and everything. That would be bad for the fish.
Jeez.
I didn't say anyone would do it. Geez, you don't have to be serious about everything. You're the one who asked for what would happen. That is what would happen. It hurt the fish. Or, sorry, the fishes. I like bubble baths at home. They're a lot of fun. Aw, Shiloh. Bubble baths are luxurious. When was the last time you had a bubble bath? I don't think I've had a bubble bath since I was probably their age. Mommy loves to have bubbles in her bath. She'll turn the lights off and have candles. I'm gonna do that next time. When's your mom coming to pick you up anyway? Not for a while. She's busy. What about your dad? How come you never talked to him about him? Don't you know you're not supposed to ask something like that? Why would somebody want to talk about something they never talk about? You kept your eyes on the ground, watching your toes get swallowed by the waves. Even if Shiloh never seemed upset when this topic came up, it made you feel awkward just for having both of your moms. It's okay, I'm like Lizzie and Bish, I don't have a dad. But I don't have 2 moms. I just have one. She's really great. Aw. Same, Shiloh. I only have one now too. My mom isn't here. She's back at home. It's just my dad with me.
Sorry.
I never had a dad or anything, so I don't feel bad. It's really sad that your mom's gone. Why would I joke about Shiloh's mom getting with Cove's dad? Why would I joke about that? Cove couldn't muster a response. You didn't think you truly disagreed, though. The silence broke with a splash as Lizzie kicked in your direction. Cold water and sodden sand splattered against your legs. Lizzie giggled, a foot still outstretched from the kick. Oh, thank you for the follow. Already too dirty and wet for comfort. Nothing had happened. They would feel as good as getting dry. You got out of the water before anyone could catch again. Perching on a rock, you scraped the wet sand from your legs as you watched the others. The sand came away in thick chunks at first, like clay. But where it had been thinner, it had already dried and clung to your skin. Cove and Lizzie were relentless, while Shiloh mostly just dodged it. Shiloh's brief exclamation was drowned out by the biggest splash yet, caused by him falling face first onto the ground. That would have been bad enough without the wave that followed, cascading over his prone body. Shiloh sat up, shaking his head like a dog coming out from the rain. As you all hurried over to check on him, his hair was plastered to his head and his soaked clothes clung. If there was any part of him that was still dry, you couldn't see it. That was crazy. Are you okay? Yeah, my foot got stuck and I fell over. Way to go, Shiloh. Oh. I guess we can offer him some help. He doesn't take our outstretched hand. Nothing worse than wet clothes clinging to your skin. I know, right? Ugh, I hate the thought. Why didn't he take our hand? Lizzie was too busy snickering to notice and held her hand out to Shiloh too. He reached over and took it. Slowly he started to pull himself up from the ground. Oh, so he was waiting for Lizzie to help him up. He then slipped on the slick sand, dragging him and Lizzie down just in time for another wave to hit. The water rolled over them.
Sorry.
What were the odds of that happening twice in a row? We thought they must be low, but there's no way Shiloh would do something like that on purpose and then pretend it was an accident, especially not to Lizzie. Even if your relationship with Shiloh felt unclear, he did at least like her a lot. Lizzie was his favorite, right? Smiling boldly, Lizzie extracted herself from the ground and wiped a streak of sand from her cheek. She didn't intend to let this embarrass her. Shiloh got up again as well, this time without incident. He still looked like a drowned puppy, but that didn't stop Cove from laughing at the two of them. With that, it was time to call it a day. The four of you drudgingly made your way back home, leaving a trail of wet footsteps and sand in your wake as damp clothes weighed the group down. Your moms were outside chatting to Cove's dad. Your mom's face fell as they took in the state you were all in, ranging from messy to soaked.
No.
Elizabeth, is that all that you have to say for yourself? You brought half the beach back with you. They certainly did. What's Marigold going to do when she comes to get Shiloh? Is that how you want him to be for the long drive home, cold and filthy? Lizzie's expression turned sulky over the scolding. Being the oldest could be fun, but it also meant that she was the first to get in trouble when something went wrong. Mr. Holden, on the other hand, chuckled as he ruffled Cove's matted hair. You've been out making memories, bucko. Bucko, really? I'm glad you had a good time with your friends. Cove used his slightly moist cast arm to push his dad off. Mr. Holden's eyes widened when he noticed even that had gotten wet. Now he was worried too. I think they could have found a less risky way to spend time and just had as much fun. That might be right. Kids, what can you do? Come on. Let's go get you cleaned up and dried off. We wouldn't want that cast to have to be reset. Yeah, that would suck. Cove winced at the thought.
Okay.
Hold on, I gotta situate myself again. Cove protested being carried, but only got reassuring pat on the back for his trouble.
Take care.
Good night, Cove. Thank you for the talk, Cliff. She's calling him Cliff? What is his real name? Clifford? Night, Pish family, and Shiloh too.
Fine,
Well, we'd better
fine.
do what we can to fix you guys up too. Come on, everybody inside. I want you to march straight downstairs bathroom.
Ugh.
Until you were less sandy, you weren't allowed to go to your room or walk around the house. But you did get to eat a sandwich for dinner there, and it felt like an indoor picnic. It had been decided that Shiloh would wash first and borrow some of your clothes. He was already finished and packed away in his mom's car. Miss Fields had come to collect him a while ago. Lizzie, being much more soaked than you, got to get in the tub first. It wasn't a bubble bath as she had hoped. This was a no fun allowed cleanup session. At least that's what she claimed. Not much longer, and it would be your turn. When the bath was done, you'd have to go right to bed. After a day like this, though, you were glad there weren't going to be any further events. Drifting off to sleep sounded like a great idea. Alrighty, we have one more story left. Or moment, I should say, before the summer ends. I think we should just go ahead and do it. Okay. One sweltering summer day, you were in your living room with Cove, listening to the sounds of the birds chattering outside the window while you lay across the rug on the floor. Cove's dad had dropped him off earlier, and your mom had left two of you along with Lizzie, to play amongst yourselves. It had been too hot to go outside in the afternoon, at least according to Mommy. So your sister was starting to get impatient waiting for her golf class that evening. The three of you had trouble finding something to do. The beach and the playground were off limits, and you felt that it was too warm for anything like playing with your fuzzy toy animals. Then suddenly a light came to Lizzie's big brown eyes, and her smile spread wide across her face. Having an idea gave her a new wave of energy. Since we're stuck inside, we should be adults. Don't play outdoors anyway. They're always inside and telling everybody they're too busy to play.
Why? Duh.
What do they do inside that we don't, besides use the phone a lot?
What do you think?
I mean, being adults doesn't sound fun, but... So, I don't know. And whenever we play with you, I wasn't asking you. Lizzie seemed more determined than ever, and you could only sigh. Satisfied that neither of you were about to bail on her, Lizzie thought over her options while you watched. After a few seconds, she clapped her hands together and beamed, apparently having settled on something without asking either of you. I'm gonna be a professional golfer. Bish, you and Cove can be a beach volleyball player, a gymnast, or a tennis player. Why can't we pick anything we want? Because I have a fun idea, that's why. But we have to play sports as adults. There's other kinds of sports too.
Right?
It isn't the same. What do you think, Bish? Don't choices sound super cool? You want to be that, huh? I wonder if there's anything else we could be. Because those don't sound very fun. Especially as a kid. She stomped her foot on the ground. Just decide already. She's so bossy. Knowing Lizzie wouldn't let this go anytime soon, you sighed. Cove was not impressed with Lizzie's attitude, though he didn't bother talking more about it. He thought over the list of possibilities: beach volleyball, gymnast, or tennis. Out of all of them, you prefer to play beach volleyball, gymnastics, or tennis? I mean, I was in gymnastics, but beach volleyball sounds pretty fun. You couldn't spend this afternoon at the beach for real, then you might as well pretend you were there. You could even wear your swimsuit to make it seem more realistic, though Lizzie probably wouldn't let you run off and do that now that she had you here. That was clearly the top option. I'm gonna be a volleyball player.
Alright!
How about you, Ko? I was gonna pick volleyball. Threw your hands in the air, making an annoyed sound. You guys can't be the same thing, that's not how it works. You didn't say that, the rule was picking from the list, you can't keep adding more. Lizzie looked at the two of you, then shook her head, resigned to losing this battle, but not the war. That's a smart way to play things, I guess. You're both volleyball players, but you're on the same team because there's only one. Lizzie's ponytail bobbed when she proudly stretched her arms wide. The Olympic team. We're Olympic athletes who just competed in the Olympics. Well, that seems like a lot of work. Cove didn't seem at all impressed with the announcement. He made a face and adjusted the glasses on his nose. That's really specific.
Rude.
That's what makes it fun. Lizzie marched back and forth in front of you both, getting lost in her own imagination. I won all gold medals and people are calling me the next Mickey Wright. Who's that? Lizzie stopped on the spot and turned on him, her brown eyes shining with impatience. It doesn't matter if you know who she is. It's a golf thing. Oh, it's a golf thing. If you and your friends were gonna become athletes, why wouldn't you all play the same sport? Oh, well, I mean, that would make more sense, huh? But I guess it just matters that we're in the Olympics. You guys won medals too. Your team placed at silver. It's more real if we're not all first place. Okay. Okay, Lizzie. Silver sucks. Oh my gosh. I'm okay with that. We can do better than silver. Silver's not bad. You states. I mean, silver's not bad. But we can do better, right? In this made-up Olympic sport world, we can do better. You pouted at Lizzie, unhappy with the decision.
Sorry.
Lots of people lose at the Olympics. Them's the breaks. Then you're the one who did, not me. Lizzie looked taken aback by Cove's declaration, as though the thought of her losing was completely absurd. No way, it wouldn't make sense. I'm already practicing my golf game. She took a golfing stance to make her point, pretending to swing her club and hit an invisible ball. So what kind of house do you want to live in? Cove hadn't changed his mind about winning, but thinking about where he'd live as an adult appealed to him, apparently, because he looked back at Lizzie with some anger fading. I'm going to live on the beach. Lizzie made a face at him, poking out her tongue. That's kind of boring. We already have that. I mean, I would like to live on the beach. Not like that. Not like the normal houses here with a street on it, right on the sand by the water. Cove is gonna live on the beach, seems fitting. Yeah, I mean, he's kind of named after the aquatic lifestyle. Just like that, all the tension was back. You hadn't even had the chance to choose where you'd want to live. That's not very fun or smart, Cove. You can't live on a bunch of sand and shells. But I want to, and I will. Cove narrowed his eyes at Lizzie, even though she stood half a head taller than him. You didn't give out a list of things to pick from this time, so I'm picking that. Okay. Well, I'm gonna live in a mansion far away from here and far away from you. One with an indoor pool and a place to practice my award-winning golfing.
It's not fair.
How come you were yelling about mine when your idea is more impossible? Lizzie's face flushed red, her hands balling into fists at her side. It's not impossible, and it's better than yours. Disagreements always seemed to crop up when the two of them were together, and you always felt like you were stuck in the middle. But when it came to the topic at hand this time, you thought, I mean, Cove is right. I mean, you can live on the beach if you want. I think living on the beach. Being on the beach was cooler. You could have windows made from driftwood and seashell wind chimes. I mean, it's really not that big of a deal. You can swim whenever you want if you live on the beach. Well, I guess that's true. We can still swim anytime we want from where we live now. Being a little closer doesn't mean anything. The two of them scowled at each other. You're being so unreasonable. I don't get what you want. This game doesn't make sense. It does. You have to be realistic. I said that. But you're not. You had no idea what to do to make them stop at this point. It seemed like the two of them would just keep working each other up as long as they could. Nothing you said so far kept them from being mad. Thankfully, like a greeting card angel, Mom walked into the room. Oh, our angel. Look at that face. Lizzie rushed over to her, hanging onto the hem of her shirt and poking out her tongue at Cove. Lizzie, Bish, it's time to get ready to go. Sorry, you guys have to leave already, Cove. Their mom said she'll walk you home so you won't be left in the cold. Cove was still glaring at Lizzie, his face flushed red with anger. I can go by myself. Oh man, he's really mad. You two were playing nice with our new friend, weren't you? I'm gonna tell the truth. I didn't want to be part of this. We were playing pretend and things got intense. They were like cats and dogs. Her sister's jaw dropped, looking betrayed as Mom put both hands on her hips. I mean, it's not much of a betrayal. It felt like our sister was going to spin things in her direction anyway. I told you to be kind to him. He's having a hard time right now. Lizzie's mouth closed back up, replaced with a tiny frown. I know, I tried, but he was... No buts. We both know you can show someone a great time when you put your mind to it. We're going to apologize to Cove and his dad over the phone when he gets home from work tonight. I mean, he doesn't really need an apology. They kind of just need to get over it. Of course, Mother knows best, so... Lizzie hung her head, dragging a foot across the ground in front of her. You caught pieces of Lizzie sulking to herself about how it was his fault too, but it was over. Alright, we better get a move on. Let's go, kids. No, Lonnie? Where did you leave the car keys? Oh, is that the other mom? Mom hustled you all out the door and you noticed during the car ride to golf practice that Lizzie was quieter than usual. She was usually the first one to request which music to listen in the car, but she didn't say a thing. Your parents noticed she wasn't in a mood to be bothered. They gave her space and Mom just asked what you'd like to listen to. Chose a song you knew Lizzie liked, maybe that would cheer up. I feel like we're always pleasing everybody. Let's do the soundtrack, because Lizzie probably doesn't like our music anyway. Oh, she did. She liked it. Thank goodness. She acted like she was grown up most of the time, but you knew she liked the movie too. When the car ride was over, you spent the twilight hour watching Lizzie hit things with other girls her age. Hit things? You mean like on the golf course, or just hit random things? You didn't know much about golf, but you could tell she really liked it, so you sat with your mom and tried to puzzle it out. It was nice sitting outside her being cooped in the house all day, and you stretched out your legs to let the last few minutes of sun warm your skin. Instead of going straight home, your mom took the family out to dinner. You went to a restaurant you had all been going to ever since you could remember. The whole afternoon had been a bunch of shouting. You hadn't been able to stop. You could kind of tell that all this helped Lizzie be less angry. The car ride home was quiet, with only the radio providing escape from silence. Lizzie had been hit. Oh, snap. Hold on. There we go. Lizzie had been in better spirits now, but the closer you got to your neighborhood, the more she wiggled in her seat and frowned out the window. She knew what was coming when you all got home. Clearly, she was dreading it. Soon enough, Mom was turning onto your street, then reversing into the driveway. Once she cut the ignition, it was dead silent. No one spoke, only unbuckled their seatbelts and opened the doors. Lizzie was the last one out. Once everyone was inside and done taking off the shoes, she propped her hands on her hips. Now then, Mr. Holmes' car is in the driveway, so he should be back from work. That's good news, isn't it, Elizabeth? You and Cove can hash things out before the day's done. Lizzie didn't complain or put up a fight. Her head ducked so she didn't have to meet anyone's eyes, and she nodded. Mom went over to the house phone, and rest of you following behind. Mommy put a gentle hand on Lizzie's shoulder as they walked side by side. You watched them from the back. This was only happening because you told on Lizzie. I guess we feel a little bit guilty. I mean, it didn't need to be out like this. You could still remember the look on Lizzie's face. There was no doubt that she felt that way about it. You and your sister didn't always get along, but you cared about each other. This wouldn't change that, you thought. The four of you stood around the kitchen in a lopsided square. All eyes were on Lizzie, who kept her gaze on her feet. You remember the number for Cove's house, don't you, honey? Lizzie jerked her head in another nod, sullen. Without further prompting, she stepped forward and began to dial. I feel like this doesn't need to involve the entire family. Mom reached over and pressed a button on the base. Suddenly, you could hear the phone ringing. She turned on the speaker. The phone rang a couple of times and stopped. Evening, Holden residence. Lizzie looked over at Mommy, unsure. She nodded encouragingly. It's Lizzie. Can I talk to Cove?
Absolutely.
Lizzie Bish? What a surprise, but of course you can say hey to the boy. He sounded cheery as usual, though definitely meant that he was said it was a surprise. You thought hard, and you were sure that your sister had never called Cove's house before. Wait, though definitely meant it when he said it was a surprise. Oh, okay. Mom spoke up before Mr. Holden or Lizzie could say anything more. Her arms were crossed over her chest, her lips pursed. Hi, Cliff. Nolani, Bish, and I are here too. Good evening. We're sorry to bother you so late. You shifted from one foot to the other, but remained where you are. I don't think we owe him a hello, do we? The gang's all here, huh? Something the matter? His voice grew a bit concerned. Mommy was quick to reassure him. No, well, yes, but it's going to be okay. Lizzie and Cove got into a bit of a fight today. We were hoping that the two of them could talk and make up. Is this a good time for you and Cove? A fight? Cove didn't tell me anything about that when I came home. It does explain the funk he's been in tonight. Despite that, it didn't seem like he really thought it was funny. Anyway, it's good. You didn't catch us at a bad time. I'll go grab him for you. There was some shuffling on the other end. It must not have gone far because you could still hear him calling out. After a beat of silence, it was muffled talking Cove's dad. Lizzie just called just so she could talk to you. It took a bit of back and forth, though the conversation seemed one-sided since she couldn't hear Cove properly. Eventually, Cove took the phone from his dad.
Hi.
Hello? Hey, it's Lizzie. Cove's tone was defensive. Lizzie turned to Mom, scowling. One stern look from her, though, and Lizzie turned away.
Sorry.
I just called to say I'm sorry for not playing it nice with you today. Lizzie's eyes were downcast, her voice low. You could tell she felt uncomfortable apologizing to Cove in front of everyone. Yeah, I would feel uncomfortable as well. She was still being genuine about feeling bad. Cove must have realized that too because he sighed quietly. I want gold. Lizzie was momentarily stunned by silent demand. You could understand why he did it. He had wanted gold too. Alright, you win the gold. Okay, I guess I'm sorry too. A sense of relief washed over everyone at the acceptance of the apology. Mom uncrossed her arms while Mommy's shoulders relaxed. Lizzie's eyebrows raised up. No wonder if she thought that he'd refuse her apology. Dad, can I get off the phone now? You couldn't see him, but it was obvious that Cove felt awkward about the situation. He'd come off uncomfortable the entire time. Yeah, you can go back to your room. Bye, Lizzie. With that said, Cove must have handed the phone to his dad and left since Mr. Holden spoke up.
That's a relief.
All's well that ends well, as they say. Thanks for arranging this. I'm sure he appreciates it.
Good job.
Mom flashed a brief smile at Lizzie and nodded at her in agreement. Given permission to leave, Lizzie scurried off towards the stairs. She seemed to be feeling much better with the incident behind her. Mom and Mommy returned to the phone, taking off speaker. They continued talking to Mr. Holden. You couldn't tell what about. You were glad that it was the end of it all. Lizzie and Cove might not get along, and probably still won't, but they weren't mad at each other anymore. Mom and Mommy weren't upset either. Everything was finally back to normal. With that thought, you retreated to your own room with a spring in your step. Alright. We finished all of the moments that are unlocked. I think we should end the summer and then probably wrap up soon. We're gonna move on to the next step. You stood beside your moms and Lizzie as the four of you watched the sun dip into the ocean somewhere far, far away. You like to imagine it cooling off in the winter, resting itself before getting ready to shine brightly again tomorrow. That was a fun day. I didn't know they had magicians on the shopping street now. You didn't do real magic. How did you figure that one out? Because I know that's not what real magic looks like. There's all kinds of magic in the world. Lizzie gave Mom a suspicious look, but didn't dispute the claim. Well, we can sit here all night. Time to hurry home and get cooking. Who's helping with dinner? Summer's almost over. The protest was obvious. You could practically see school on the horizon. You certainly didn't want to spend your last bits of freedom cooking dinner. You could only do that any other day. Put on your best puppy dog eyes. have homework and reading to do. We can't do work now, too. Hazen stomped her foot into the ground. You mimicked her, feeling that would add something to the argument.
No.
Come on, Pam. I can help you with dinner. So we have Pam and Nolani. She... Okay. Leaned in for a hug. You knew you were very close to victory.
Okay.
But as soon as dinner's ready, you are coming inside, understood? So much to do, so little time. Maybe I could still get this seashell bracelet at Teens and Trinkets. Or maybe the playground. What fireflies would be coming out, right? Lizzie looked over at you, narrowing her eyes like she was very seriously contemplating the answer to that question. A strong gust of wind made you shiver. Lizzie huffed as she wrapped her arms around herself.
Rude.
Doesn't the wind know that summer's not over yet? That's all Lizzie said before abruptly turning on her heel and heading off to the direction your mothers had gone. Where are you going? I'm going to my room. I have lots to plan if I want to make the most of tomorrow. You thought this over, looking off towards the water again. Lizzie didn't wait, and before long she was disappearing off down the road. You stayed outside. In the end, the pretty sky and soothing sounds of the waves won out. You strayed out the path, grinning at the feel of the sand quickly filling the empty space in your flip-flops. That was the fun for a while, but you grew bored eventually. How else could you enjoy the remainder of your time at the beach? Drew in the wet sand. There you doodled and wrote a few words. It was a race against the waves, which would roll in and erase your hard work. It was a great evening, but soon enough you had your fill and were ready to join the rest of your family back home. Not too much further down, you spotted a familiar green head of hair moseying along the shore. You went to see what Cove was up to. Cove knelt down, picking up something quickly identified as a smooth rock. He reared his arm back and then tossed into the water. You're impressed at how far he got. Or it was a good toss. It wasn't a long throw, but he didn't care if you were to try for that. The rock sunk, kind of. Deciding to join Cove, you searched nearby rocks. Cove jumped a little when he noticed you and gave a shrug and a smile, realizing you'd sort of forgotten to announce yourself. You found a shell that would suit your purpose, a smile growing as you tossed it as hard as you could. It landed with a wet-sounding thunk a few feet away and slipped down into the water. When you look over at Cove, you didn't seem to notice that his throw had been more impressive. Cove was looking down at his cast, scratching idly at the pink surface, even though you were pretty sure you couldn't feel it. His brows were furrowed, and there was a frown on his face.
It's not fair.
How'd you get it? I was jet skiing. He beamed at him. He had never gone jet skiing, but you had seen others do it all the time from the shore. It looked impressive. Cove looked a little taken aback by your outburst, but after a second he gave a small nod. Then he continued to explain. I crashed. He gestured to his arm as if to say, and this was the result. It's hard to believe you're allowed to jet ski.
Whoa.
Cove let out a huff, plopping down on the sand. I can't believe summer's almost over. You're telling me this boy went jet skiing without permission? Like he just hopped up and then he broke his arm? Sat down next to him and nodded in agreement, regardless of the sudden topic change. I don't want to go to school. I mean, I would. I don't want to go to a new school. I think it'll be the same school as you and Lizzie. My dad said something about that. So why don't you want to go? It's nice as far as schools go. You'd ever been to one? Cove lives on the edge. Yes, he's living life on the edge. You'd only ever been to the one school, but you were sure that this old school couldn't have been that much better. Then again, you didn't have to make new friends and meet new teachers, and it would be kind of scary. Cove shook his head, then wrapped his arm around his knees as he drew them into his chest. You heard a sniffling sound, and when you took a good look at his face, you realized that his eyes were wet. Oh my gosh, he's crying again, guys. He's so emotional. I feel so bad. He just wants to go home. You weren't sure what to do. It felt weird just to leave him here crying, but what could you say that would help? You frowned a little, staring at the sand. Okay, well, bye then. Cove gave his head a small shake. No, I want to go back home. Right, Cove wanted to go back to his old home, the one that sat waiting someplace far from here. The one that he would bring up whenever he felt this sad. It had been a while since he had moved in, but he didn't seem to feel any better about being here. He settled back down into the sand, trying to consider what to do. Do you hate it here? You're not going to leave, right? You'll still be around? The question was a little surprising. Your parents would have mentioned if you were going to move or something, right? After a second, Cove gave a little nod. Once I get my cast off, we could go swimming. You're fine with him changing the subject again. Yeah, that would be fun. My dad keeps saying I get used to everything eventually, that I'll feel better then. It used to make me angry. I didn't want to get used to everything. You spared a glance over at Cove and saw the anger had slipped off his face in favor of something almost puzzled. But maybe that would be okay after all, as long as I really do feel better. The two of you sat quietly. You look over your shoulder and realizing it was probably time for dinner. Had you guys really been sitting out there that long? You stood and dusted the sand off yourself. My mom's calling. It's time for dinner. You should come. Expression screaming reluctance, yet ultimately. Cove returned with one of his own, but the two of you couldn't stay in there in your own little world any longer. You were being called forward. So the both of you ran off towards your house, leaving the waves and the summer behind. Aww. In between, we've made it to the next section. I mean, do we want to do anything with our character? Huh. Well, I hope everything's... Is everything back on? I hope everything's back on. Okay. Well, my chat's working. Okay. I don't know what that was about. Twitch has been having a hard time today. This is cute. I think we could have a little haircut, right? Get glasses like, okay. That doesn't look like rosy cheeks. That looks like an eye infection. Okay. Oh, we can have acne now. I would not wish that on anyone either. Okay. I think that's good. Well, I don't think we should change our eye shape. Okay. We're done. I think we're fond of him, right? Alright. Choose to customize Cove yourself or let his prior experiences determine it? Oh, okay. We can... Oh my goodness, he looks so different. Well, not really, but... Look at that. Oh, we can pick his hair. Well, we don't have very many options, but I like the first one the more. Yeah. Oh, we can still choose to give him glasses. Oh my goodness. Oh, that's pretty cool. You want a necklace? Shirt. Oh, PJs. Okay. Aw, that's cute. I like these on him. Oh, this is the same thing. Okay, done. Sporty? I think he should be mixed. I think he should be sporty and studious. Oh, that's all we can do on his personality? Okay. August ended, September began. It was time to go back to school. Lizzie groaned and complained the entire first week. She hated going to classes. Still, there were interesting things to do that couldn't be done anywhere else. You weren't sure how Cove felt about it. He was enrolled that year. That was like a sign Cove would be staying in Sunsetburg for a while. At school, he was alright, but kept his distance from other kids. From what you saw, anyway. Originally, he treated you like everyone else, passing by as if you didn't know each other. But as the years went on, the two of you acknowledged each other more and more. A friendship started to grow. That year, the divorce of Cove's parents was finalized. You overheard your parents talking about it, saying Cove's dad got full custody. At first, you worried that meant bad news. It had made Mr. Holden cry, apparently. Then you found out it meant Cove would keep living with his dad. He would only stay with his moms a few weeks of the year. Cove cried too, for different reasons, you thought. It seemed like Cove and his dad might have to move again, but Mr. Holden decided to stay after all. Mom asked him about it once. He had said he didn't want to uproot Cove's life a second time. Mr. Holden tried to get Cove to to like Sunset Bird more. He kept encouraging his son to go out and see the place. Sometimes Mr. Holden volunteered you to spend time with Cove. You weren't sure how well it worked in changing Cove's thoughts on the town, yet it might have been part of the reason why you and Cove ended up growing closer. Cove never talked to anyone about what happened with his parents and withdrew whenever it was brought up. It was hard for him, yet nobody knew how to help. Eventually, Cove stopped crying on his own. You couldn't understand what had changed. Still, you worried about him. You could tell he wasn't completely happy. Maybe one day he could say out loud what he felt inside. After that, I felt like things had gone back to normal. Except what was normal didn't stay the same. Years passed and suddenly you were in middle school. You weren't a kid anymore. You were 13 years old. That officially made you a teen, even if your sister didn't agree. The toys and crayons that used to litter every free space in your room had been packed away somewhere, replaced by new hobbies. There were other changes too. Cove's cast got taken off. It was weird to see him without it initially. Underneath the pink plaster ended up being a long, thin scar that snaked across his forearm. Cove's chest puffed out with pride when someone drew attention to it. He also went through a major growth spurt. He was the tallest student in his class for 2 years in a row. Cove will probably hold that spot again next time. In class, people knew him for more than just being tall. He also stood out because of how well he did with school stuff overall. Over the years, he began opening up more too. You saw him talking amicably with other kids or neighborhoods from time to time. And the only kid that came to visit the neighborhood when you were little, Shiloh, well, he was gone. Aw, Shiloh's gone? He and his mom moved back south because of her work, just 1 year after Cove came to Sunset Bird. They had been really upset when he left. Lizzie was inconsolable for weeks, but nobody talked about Shiloh anymore. It was a long time ago. You learned some heartbreaking things became less sad the further away they were, even if they had never gotten any better. It was sad in its own way. Things at home were different too. You still lived in the same house and all that, but it wasn't how it was before. Ma dyed her hair purple, wanting something new, and liked it so much she kept dyeing it. You remembered calling her mommy as a kid, but something like that seemed awkward nowadays. You were much too old for the word. Lizzie felt too mature for her nickname too. She insisted on everyone calling her Elizabeth, so you did. Your mom soon gave her permission to go places other than the playground and shopping street, which she took advantage of. You rarely saw her around the old neighborhood. In fact, she hardly spent any time with you the way she did before. Elizabeth instead of associated more and more with girls from school who were her own age. Maybe the difference between 13 and 15 was greater than the difference between 8 and 10. You started befriending new people yourself, like Derek Schwartz. Derek Schwartz? He didn't live in the neighborhood or go to the same school. What happened was his and Cove's dad struck up a business partnership a few months ago. Since then, Derek would pop in out in the area. It seemed Mr. Schwartz was happy to let Derek tag along to his work, if Derek had the time for it. Without a doubt, everyone and everything around you had changed. In small and big ways, you had too. As time went by, though, it was easy to settle into this new normal. Then, before you knew it, school was over and summer vacation had come again. It was the first day of summer vacation. The sun was hot as ever, but you were inside and away from its harsh rays. To be more specific, you were... do we want to be realistic? I think we were wide awake. You made sure to slather on a generous amount of sunscreen so you wouldn't get burnt. You were looking in the mirror, studying the clothes you'd thrown on when your bedroom door opened without a warning. In the reflection, you saw Elizabeth raise an eyebrow. Oh wow, she's beautiful. Have you been staring at yourself this whole morning? Good morning, Elizabeth. She ignored that, crossing her arms over her chest in a disgruntled expression. Clearly, she hadn't come in to see you. Mom told me to tell you that your friend's at the door. He brought some happy summer gift from Mr. Holden. Mom wants you to take it from him. Says thanks or whatever.
Come on.
So come down already? Okay. Okay. Elizabeth said nothing else and left, having done what was instructed of her. Now alone, you focused on the mirror once again. There's a lot of open real estate in the frame. Oh my gosh. It's free real estate. I should have put that sound in the soundboard. I'm pretty short. I'm not so short. Oh my gosh. Yeah, pretty short. You could relate to Derek and how it felt to be smaller than people thought you ought to be. Your shortness seemed even more drastic when compared to Cove, who was unusually tall. Oh, so our new Derek character is a shorty as well. You liked your height, you weren't sure how to feel about it, you were kind of self-conscious over it. I mean, in middle school, you're not really sure, you don't really care. Things kept changing. With the height you actually had and what the impression of that height was based on your age, it was confusing. Then, you put the finishing touches on your outfit while ruminating on the situation. Careless as they had been, Elizabeth's words piqued your curiosity. You planned on going over to see what Cove was up to, so this worked in your favor. Your reflection grinned back at you. You were looking forward to seeing him. You left your room, taking an easy time down the stairs. You spotted Mom's first reclining on the couch. She held a magazine in her hands, which she was perusing. Morning, Mom. She looked up at you a greeting, a smile instantly appearing on her face.
Thanks.
Good morning, Bish. I forgot that was our name for a second there. Thank you for coming down. Mom's at the door with Cove. He can't stay over today, unfortunately. Why don't you go and thank him before he leaves? You nodded and made your way to the front of the house, just as she said. Ma was there making conversation. She must have heard you because she looked over her shoulder.
Oh.
Ooh, her purple hair looks really good, actually. Ma reached forward and you knew she was about to pat you on the head. She was taller than average for an adult woman, so at your height you were absolutely tiny in her eyes. Ma could be so ridiculous, you thought, but that was okay. You're the last one down today, you know that? Of course, that's what you're thinking about. Allow me to get out of your way so you can find out. Cove was just as you remembered, exactly how you came to know him to be. He leaned uncomfortably to the side in your doorway as the longer strands of his hair idly drifted with the breeze. His father was pinched in embarrassment and he shifted from one foot to another. He was hiding what must be the much talked about gift. First glance, you figured it must be a bouquet of flowers, and you gave it a real look. No, instead it was a carefully cut fruit. Huh. It made a lot of sense that it was actually from Cove's dad. You had to suppress a laugh at this showing. You couldn't imagine many folks buying that sort of thing for their own personal enjoyment. That kind of arrangement was built for the presentation, likely to impress whoever was inevitably going to receive it. It seemed no matter how long he lived here, Mr. Holden would keep going out of his way to be neighborly, and Cove would always be roped into participating. Cove smiled slightly at the sight of you. The sting of his goofy errand, he was clearly embarrassed to be on ease. You earnestly grinned back. It wasn't weird at all. It was like it used to be when you were kids. As time passed, the two of you started to enjoy each other's company. Now you actually considered him a good friend, and not someone you were forced to be around. Hey, it's really nice to see you. And you were certain he meant that agreement. It was already shaping up to another long summer with plenty of time for the two of you to have fun together. His awkwardness over the task started to creep back in, so Cove nudged the gift closer to you. He was ready to be relieved of it. And with that, the gift was accepted. I hope you and your family like this. It's a pretty good gift, I think so anyway. Dad spent a lot of time picking out the best size and design. There were so many options to choose from. You're too cute sometimes. Just thanks. Could you tell your dad you liked the gift? Mr. Holden's behavior really was different from the neighbors you'd ever had. Though after 5 years you were used to his antics, and you since made up your mind on what your opinion was. He was pretty weird. I think that goes without saying. You couldn't imagine having to live with him all the time like Cove did. Your thoughts were quickly interrupted by a shout. You shared a confused look with Cove as both of you stepped through the open door in the neighborhood street. It didn't take long to locate the source of the noise. You spotted Derek just a few yards down the road. He ran up to you. You were happy at the sight of him. You were confused at the sight of him. You were happy. Derek was certainly a welcome guest in your neighborhood. It was a pleasant surprise whenever he showed up. After stopping a couple steps away, Derek hunched over to catch his breath. Then he looked up with a wide grin. Hey, guy and gal. I was just at your house, Cove, but no one was there. Should have figured you'd be at Bish's place. Do you ever spend time in your own home, or are you always just there? Derek laughed at his own joke. He either didn't notice that it embarrassed Cove, or the embarrassment was he was actually laughing at it. Derek turned to you. He was going to say more when his eyes widened and he gasped. What's that? You followed his gaze, unsure. Then you realized what he meant. You're still holding Mr. Holden's gift. This is kind of like a bouquet of flowers, but made out of fruit.
Nice.
I guess you can have some. Then he nodded his head as if to clear it. Anyway, that's right. I came here because I need to say something big. There's some other kid here in Sunset Bird. Cove was surprised as you were by the news. Such a reaction made sense. No one around your age had moved here since Cove did 5 years ago. Were they with their family? Maybe they were cutting through. The new kid was all by himself, just walking.
Nope.
I came to report the sighting right away. I mean, I guess that's what happens in a small town. Everybody talks about you. The kid had green hair, glasses, was pretty small, and seemed really upset about something. I hope he didn't leave. You blinked slowly. You looked over to your longtime neighbor. That sounds like a lot like you, Cove, when you first got here anyway. It does, kinda, does it? He sounded almost fond, a small smile playing on his lips. I can see that really well, now that you say so. But what'd you say? Let's go find Cove's look-alike. We should all meet him.
Sure.
As I saw him, the mystery visitor was going in this direction. When you're almost there, you spotted the kid in question. His bright colors almost shone like a beacon beneath the rays of sun. He scuffed around, kicking up the sand as he paced. It was true, he certainly seemed upset, but you didn't think he was sad, like you had originally pictured. No, with his erratic movements and scrunched up expression, he came off angry. You started to have doubts about his expedition. Maybe it had been better if you left him alone to sort himself out. Derek didn't feel the same. He waved wildly, calling out to the boy, "Hey guy, over here." The kid whipped around, an impressive scowl carving deeper onto his face. His eyes were tired, but a strong, hostile energy radiated from him. Oh my gosh, we got another green-haired character.
What?
Oh my gosh. A sharp tone made Derek flinch. He shifted from his feet. What's your name?
No.
I'm Derek. That's Bish and Cove. We were just walking around and saw you and wanted to say hi. There weren't a lot of kids our age in the neighborhood. Jeremy grew furious by your response. If steam could erupt from a person's ears, it would have happened then. They did bring me somewhere stupid. Of course, I knew it. What?
My parents.
They're the ones who brought me. I didn't walk to this town. Can you figure out that on your own?
Right.
My dad brings me to Sunset Bird too when he has to come for work and all that stuff. It's not bad. That earned him a glare from Jeremy. Derek winced beneath it, glancing away. It was a struggle to remain friendly with this Jeremy guy. I mean, I wouldn't want to come here for a real vacation probably either. That's an understatement. This doesn't count as a vacation, it's a waste of time. A chore. My parents' family is nearby and we just had to come see them. If they're your parents' family, doesn't that make them your family
guess.
too? I guess. That's a pretty good reason to come by. Did you want to go somewhere else? Jeremy crossed his arms with a huff and turned away. They should have gone by themselves since they cared so much and left me home, but I'm not allowed to be by myself. They're ones who don't know how to do anything, and I'm the kid? Well, just said hello. You don't have to keep complaining at us. Calm down. You don't have to yell so much. Who peed in your cereal? Who peed in your Cheerios?
That's disgusting.
Why would you think of something like that? It's disgusting.
Sheesh.
Took a deep breath. You thought for one hopeful second that maybe he was calming himself down. He was not. So what? You're putting in people's heads I don't have to think about it. And someone brainless might decide it's a good idea and actually do it. I'm putting it in people's heads to pee in other people's Cheerios? Or cereal, I'm sorry. There are some real stupids out in the world, you know. You're all living proof of that.
Hey!
You turn to Cove, lowering your voice. The two of you aren't that similar after all. Jeremy must have had a good hearing, though, because he caught the private exchange and scoffed. Cove's cheeks flushed crimson at the insult. You could be sure if it was out of embarrassment or anger, maybe both. How can you say that when you've got a bowl cut? Oh my gosh. Now I know why you thought we had anything in common. You must be blind. You grinned, or just rolled your eyes. I guess we'll grin. He wasn't the nicest kid you ever met, but he certainly wasn't the dullest. He rejected your amusement by grimacing harder than ever. What is wrong with you? Instead of taking offense, Jeremy only parroted Derek's words in a nasally voice.
Wow, what is wrong with you?
Did you guys hear that? That voiceover? Oh my gosh. This is dumb. Jeremy stuck out his tongue and skulked away, throwing more sand everywhere as he went. You watched him go, hunched over until he became a speck in your vision. Silence reigned in his wake. The three of you tried to process what just happened. Derek wasn't kidding, and by the sound of those earlier complaints, the new boy Jeremy was going to be in the area for at least a little while this summer.
This sucks.
I was hoping we could meet someone fun. After a moment, he slowly turned to you with a hopeful expression. Right at the fruit arrangement. You completely forgot about it during the mini drama that unfolded. You had gotten used to the wait. Glancing over to Cove, you noticed he was eyeing the fruit. He must want some too. Derek perked up immediately at your words. He reached out for a skewer, hesitating slightly once he was inches away.
Are you sure?
Cove grabbed one for himself after him. Only you were without a skewer of your own. Oh, that's supposed to be my gift, right? Oh, there's still some. Ooh, should we do melons or strawberries? I think we're gonna do strawberry. Derek ate a pineapple skewer enthusiastically. Remember the Land Before Time? That fruit thing makes me think of it. The dinosaurs all like the leaves that were shaped like stars. Aw, yeah, I love the Land Before Time. Yeah, chopping leaves looks so delicious when they did it. And there were that scene with the little pretty trees and all the dinosaurs came in and picked everything off them until there was nothing. That's us right now. Awesome. I love that movie. The three of you continued like this for the next few minutes. Eventually the display was bare and it looked weird when devoid of fruit. We weren't supposed to eat all of it.
Oops.
You could have stopped yourself from sighing at the boys. You just wanted to eat some and have a nice time. Now we were probably going to get in trouble, and you could only accept it, though. Thanks for what you said back then. It's nice. Not everybody thinks like that guy. Aw, he actually thanked us. You both ready for summer break? Before you could say anything else, the light atmosphere was shattered.
Hey!
You glanced over your shoulder to see your sister. She strode closer and closer, appearing none too pleased. I've been looking all over for you. Ma said you and Cove ran off with the thing Mr. Holden bought for us. Well, it's gone. You moved over to the side to face her completely. She zeroed in on the bouquet in your hand, which was now populated exclusively with skewers dripping in juice and tiny flecks of leftover fruit pieces. Her mouth dropped open and the tone of her voice rose.
What?
Seriously, Bish? What were you thinking? It was supposed to be for all of us at home. Even if you did have an in with the delivery boy, this was up to Mr. Holden. Cove gave you a bent smile of support, which didn't help disprove her accusation. I think I can hear Mean Kid coming back. We better get out of here.
What?
Derek didn't bother explaining. He just launched to his feet and ran off. Cove hopped up too, gladly taking the opportunity to exit the situation. He followed after Derek, but sent a look to you from over his shoulder. You turned to watch Elizabeth. She stared back, brow raised. You ran. Without a word, you got to her feet and bolted down the beach.
So immature.
She shook her head as she walked towards his house, not bothering whatsoever to follow. Meanwhile, the three of you made it back to the shoreline. Derek pumped his fist, grinning in triumph. We escaped and shall live to see another day. My mom's gonna be so mad when Elizabeth tells this story. Oh well. Let's stay on a little bit longer. You've gotten a bit of scolding from your moms for not saving any of Mr. Holden's gift for Elizabeth, but you didn't get any real punishment for it. Instead, while you were out with the boys, Elizabeth returned home to share the news. The three of them went to get dessert on their own. It was declared even by your parents when everyone got back and the event was settled. That was a while ago now. Later that night, you found yourself seated near the kitchen counter. Your fingers drummed on the surface as you waited. Your gaze trained on the phone. You were waiting on a call tonight, specifically from your cousin Leandra. You didn't want to miss it by accident. Your uncle, aunt, and Lee used to live many hours away. Your families only saw each other a few times a year for big vacations. A while back, though, they moved and were closer to you than ever before. You now hung out regularly. With school being out, you're positive she's going to want to come over a lot. The two of you were the same age and got along well. She used to be really fond of Lizzie, Elizabeth too, but now that your sister had become allergic to interacting with her own family, it tended just to be you and Lee who spent time together. Being family helps you. I think she's our only girlfriend, right? You weren't at all that close with any other girls your age. But I had plenty of other friends, but you didn't really have a lot of other friends either. Plenty of other friends. There's nothing wrong with having guys as friends. Then the shrill ringtone announced an incoming call. You jumped before grabbing the receiver and pressing it to your ear. You were greeted by a distorted, high-pitched giggle.
What?
Why do you sound so weird? Mom answers the phone like that sometimes. It's supposed to be polite. You should go with hi. That was something robotic would say. There was a static on the end, as if Lee was shifting wherever she was. Sue, can you believe school's actually over? I thought it'd never be done. Now we don't have to do anything that boring stuff, and we get to hang out whenever we want. Speaking of hanging out,
Oh yeah.
you got up from your seat at the counter. Luckily the phone was wireless, so you didn't have to worry about any cords tying you down. Your mom had a rule about not moving the phone unless it was a call in progress, which is why you'd been sat by its cradle waiting for Lee to call. After you had arrived, you shut the bedroom door firmly behind you. You took a seat on your bed. Alright, I'm here.
Cool.
Cool. Did you know the girl down the street from me has her own phone now? A cell phone. She doesn't have to wait for someone else to stop using it or anything. Oh, the days when we all had house phones. What a time. The thought of someone having a phone that was all their own seemed unbelievable to you. I wish I had one, but my parents said I couldn't get my own phone until I'm more grown up. I wish they'd changed their mind. We could call each other every single day, and no one would be able to stop us. How great would that be? My mom would be able to stop us if they wanted.
Oh.
Then you have your own phone too. Squeezing the phone between your shoulder and your ear, you puffed up your pillows and made yourself more comfy. It was strange to think of a time when normal school would be over, and you'd have to choose whether or not to go to a college. School was such a big part of your life right now. You worked hard for your excellent grades. Every A+ you brought home was a result of concentration and diligence. You hoped that you would be able to keep it up throughout your high school. You felt a lot of pressure. You hoped to do just as well this year, but it wouldn't be a big deal. You were competent, your grades would remain great. You were competent. You tried to sound engaged, but your mind had seemed to go back to school despite the season. Lee knew you too well to be fooled. What's up? Just thinking about school. Lee groaned. Are you thinking about how we don't have to think about it because it's summer? That's what I'm doing. I'm looking forward to going back. Let's make a petition for more vacation time. Let's make a petition. Though I guess school isn't all the way bad. You can do some good things there. Just do more when school's out. Cafeteria lunches could be better. I think anyone could say that. What's something you want to do? The first thing that comes to your head. Let's do artsy stuff. You leaned back in your bed, settling in as you continued chatting with your friend. Even though it hadn't been long since you saw her and you'd be seeing her soon, you felt plenty to talk about. For one, the events of the day, you sat up straighter. I was with Cove and Derek today, and we met a new kid. His parents are visiting family, so it sounds like he'll be around for a little while. I don't know how long. What was he like? Mean. He was a mean guy. You want a boy to stay away before even meeting him? That's an unexpected twist. Your cousin was pretty popular with the boys who knew her. She seemed happy enough to have them around, until they started to annoy her. Who are you to talk? Cove and Derek are always around. They're both boys, you know. That's not the same. Even though she couldn't see, you shook your head at her, grinning to yourself. There was stomping noise approaching your room.
Come on.
Glancing at your watch, you realized that your quick call had gone much longer than anticipated. Elizabeth held out her hand, the other lodged on her hip. She noticed the realization on your face.
Bye.
You barely pressed the end button when Elizabeth whisked the handset from your fingers and began dialing someone new as she strode out of the room. Your mom's voice called from downstairs. With that, she shut the door behind you. Silence was left in the wake. That was one way to end your first day of summer break. Sometime later it had gotten dark outside and you laid in bed, wide awake. Your wind rattled all of a sudden, startling you badly. You flinched, staring out over at it with your furrowed brows. From your vantage point, you saw only the moon and the open sky. You were curious. What had caused that noise? Cocking your head, you sat up and moved closer to the window. You wanted to get to the bottom of this. Cove? You squinted. Yep, Cove was right outside your window. Oh my gosh, guys. He's becoming one of the stalker boys. Your house was very angular and some parts stuck out further than others, so it theoretically wouldn't be hard to climb around on. Still, just because somebody could didn't mean you expected it to ever happen. To his credit, Cove was doing fine. His feet were braced against a section of the wall that jutted out, his arms flexing with the effort to keep him upright. He easily lifted a hand and waved at you from the other side of the glass. You hurriedly opened the window. Cove climbed over the edge, releasing a breath once he was safely inside.
Hey.
Hi, Bish. This is a surprise. You're lucky I didn't start screaming. Needed to talk to you and couldn't wait until tomorrow. If I rang the doorbell, I know your mom would have answered and they'd just make me go home. I didn't really want to explain why I was coming over anyway. I don't want to talk about it. Well, besides with you, I mean, but that's why I didn't. As unexpected as this was, you were touched. Cove felt like he could tell you what was wrong. I might have tried calling you or something, except my dad was on the phone. Cove suddenly looked very cross. Dad, he was talking to my mom. Still is, probably. You raised your eyebrows. Cove had eavesdropped on his parents' phone conversation. There were other things to talk about. Are you going to stay with your mom for a while again? Every year, Cove was sent off to live with his mom for a few weeks. When it happened varied. Sometimes he would go during winter break, but usually he went during summer. Even though it was hard news when you found out that he was leaving and you missed seeing him those weeks, you understood. To your surprise, however, he shook his head. That's what I thought too, but no, that's not what they were saying. My dad asked my mom not to leave me this year. My dad asked my mom not to have me leave this year. He said she could come stay with us here. You waited for him to continue. He didn't. The conversation abruptly dropped off. You couldn't help but stare at Cove. There was a complicated mix of expressions on his face. What did your mom say? She told him she'd come. I know she's coming soon, before school starts. Oh. You had heard Cove talk about his mom a lot over the years. He'd tell you about past memories or what happened while she was visiting her. Still, it was one thing to hear about someone and another to actually meet them. Very soon, you were going to see Cove's mom in person. You were taken aback by the news, so you could only imagine how Cove felt. You looked over at him. He was pacing across your room, his features pained with dread. Before they barely stayed in the room long enough to have lunch, now we're going to be all together again, the three of us, after all this time, just for a few weeks. I know I should probably be happy they can talk to each other now, but I'm still not. I'm just confused and freaked out, and now I feel really bad for feeling this way. I shouldn't keep getting like this. It's been a long time already, and I'm not a little kid. Though he wouldn't meet your eyes. You knew he was waiting for you to say something. Cove's shoulders sagged further and he sighed. He seemed to feel at least a bit more comfortable about the mutual agreement that the situation was crummy. You marveled at how the days started. You had woken up and eager for the summer vacation, but now things seemed so crazy. The mini debacle with Mr. Holden's gift, the newest addition to the neighborhood being so rude, and as if all of that wasn't enough, now Cove's mom would be living with Cove and his dad again. Your whole life was kind of like that, it seemed, complicated and hard and different. Why couldn't things just get better with time? The sound of your name said quietly pulled you from your thoughts. Cove gazed at you concerned.
Are you okay?
You don't have to forget about yourself yourself for me. I want to listen to you too. He had come here conflicted and upset, only to end up worrying about you. He really was a great friend. He looked away, his lips thing into a line, and he grabbed his arm. I kind of just don't want to go back home either. Could I stay a little longer, just do something else? He appeared equal parts hopeful and vulnerable. How could you possibly turn him away? I got a flashlight and some cards. Cove perked at your response, a smile appearing on his face. He immediately took a seat on your bed, not afraid to get comfortable in your room. You felt a little better at the sight somehow. You still had a lot of worries, but you were glad he was here. And not just tonight. You were glad he came into your life in the first place. That was a change you'd never want to undo. Who would have thought Cove would mean so much to you? You certainly hadn't in the beginning. You had kept your distance, and so had he, and now you considered him to be one of your closest friends. You joined Cove on your bed, taking a seat across from him. He smiled at you again, but you could tell this time it was half-hearted. He was still easy to read. Though he didn't want to talk about his mom and dad, he must be thinking about what happened and what happened to him, or what's about to happen. Stretched your short leg out and nudged him with your arch of your foot. You had no idea how to make him feel better, but you were trying. Cove blinked, confused, before he swatted your foot away. But his expression softened into something more natural. Conversation was stilted and broken off by silence at first, then both of you were able to get out your usual candor. As your secret hangout session stretched on, you thought that you truly wanted to keep having moments like this with him. You hoped the day would never come when life decided that the two of you would have to part ways. And you knew Cove felt the same way. You opened your tired eyes, groaning as they adjusted a bright light that was streaming through your window and warming your peach skin. With a loud yawn, you rolled away from the sunlight, blinked a couple of times, clearing the sleep from your eyes, before realizing with a start that it was actually morning. You couldn't remember even falling asleep. Cove had crept in the window during the night, and the two of you spent time together, trying to wake your parents. Or trying not to. You must have fallen asleep while you were hanging out, but couldn't put a finger exactly when. Wonder how late Cove had stayed before heading home. You rubbed your face and yawned again, contemplating whether you could get out of bed and get ready for the day, or stayed snuggled up for a little while longer. Until your gaze landed on an instantly recognizable mop of pale green hair, and you bolted upright and gasped in surprise. He never left. He was still there, in the morning. Oh no. Jumped out of bed. Your feet hit the floor faster than the speed of light, though Cove remained asleep. He'd fallen asleep while sitting on the ground, precariously leaning his head on the side of your mattress. It was lucky your leap hadn't caused him to fall over, but he certainly couldn't stay like that. You knew you had to wake him up before your parents or even Elizabeth waltzed into your room. With that in mind, you also had to get him out of there quietly. Threw a pillow at him. Grabbing one of the soft, fluffy pillows from your bed, you tossed at Cove and he woke with a start. He scrambled out of the way as he abruptly jumped to his feet before losing his balance and falling back. He recovered just as quickly and faced you indignantly. What was that for? The situation dawned on him too before he even finished the word. Cove blinked at you a couple times, his eyes growing in panic as some thought that only he could hear settled in his mind. Oh my god, did you hear that voice crack? I don't know if you guys can hear that, but it was, oh my god! You weren't exactly sure what to do as you watched Cove pace your room, looking around frantically. Cove's hands flew to his face, letting out a sigh of relief when he found his glasses right where they were supposed to be. Despite that, he hadn't calmed down completely. The atmosphere was still frazzled. It's going to be alright, we're going to be in so much trouble, just calm down. Cove nodded. His shoulders tensed as he fixed you with a firm stare in his turquoise eyes. Letting out a heavy sigh, he ran a hand through his hair in exasperation. He couldn't look at you again as he spoke. I'll see you later. You were confused by this, how all of this had played out, but hoped that it was still true. Right, bye, Cove. At that, he glanced at you once more, the expression placid, In all the panic, he was stopped ever so briefly by a moment of clarity. Thanks again, you're a good friend. He firmly whispered the words so that there was no room to doubt he meant it. But he turned away from you before you had the chance to respond or even fully react. In a matter of seconds, he climbed over your bed and opened the window. A cool breeze rolled off the ocean, fluttering through Cove's hair and filling your room with a salty scent. Cove fearlessly stepped out onto the ledge. His confidence aside, going out the window might not be the best idea. Thought of him getting hurt was even more than being caught. You don't have to go out that way. I could for you to use the door. You weren't sure if he heard you or not, but he kept going along, one foot in front of the other with increased steps until his full form disappeared out of sight. You stuck your head out the window as far as you could go to try and keep watching. He walked the full length of the ledge before jumping down to the top of the garage and lowering himself onto the fence. From there, he finally dropped down to the ground. He threw out a thumbs up at his successful climb. He ran off towards his house without stopping, disappearing behind the side of another building. You had to admit that you're pretty impressed at how doable he made that look. With a little sigh, you reclosed your window, deciding there was nothing more you could do. You hopped off your bed and got ready to head downstairs for the day. I guess we'll make our bed. No, we'll check ourselves in the mirror. Like you'd just woken up. Taking a comb from your bedside table, you attempted to fix and smooth down some of the messy strands. Took the stairs slowly, attempting to mask your face and look of innocence. You were sure that someone would have to come into your room if they had heard anything strange, but you couldn't be too careful. You had to play it cool. Good morning, Elizabeth.
Why?
Why are you being so weird? You hadn't even done anything. Your big sister never missed a beat, unfortunately. You turned and offered a tight smile, and her lips pursed together even tighter. You shrugged it off. Spoke so nonchalantly that you almost thought she believed you. Further suspicious squinting occurred as she waited for something, but ultimately she rolled her eyes and you weren't sure if you were in trouble or not. She didn't seem to care enough to dig any further. And then she walked straight out of the front door, letting it slam shut behind her, and you let a brief sigh. Elizabeth went out most days to hang out with her friends from school around town. Today, you were extra glad for it, though you were also grateful she hadn't left the house any sooner and risked running into Cove. It looks like you were getting away with that. Breakfast was eaten in peace and alone. Your moms were both out by the time you had gotten up. They had left you a serving of food from breakfast they made, hash browns and omelet, fruit salad, and there were a few sausage links. Oh my gosh, I want them to cook for me. Cook a little bit of everything. Would it be bad for us to go see him?
Hi.
Nothing came to mind. You had absolutely no idea who the woman was. Oh, it's his mom, isn't it? I'm sorry, was that presumptuous? I've heard about you, but you have no idea who I am, do you? My son lives here, and my ex too. With a thin smile, she lifted a hand to point at the condo across the street from your own house. She was Cove's mom. You didn't know why you hadn't realized sooner, now that you'd gotten a good look at her. I mean, she was super pretty. No matter your thoughts on her, you still felt taken aback that she had appeared so suddenly. Cove mentioned that she was coming by, but you hadn't gotten the impression that would be the very next day. She extended a hand again, this time for you to take, and you studied the manicured fingers in front of your face and the assortment of bracelets that dangled from her wrist. You can call me Kyra. You reached out and took her hand, shook hers formally, grinning.
That I do.
Cove's mentioned you to me before. It's nice to officially meet you. Cove talked to you about his mom. He hadn't mentioned how he had said things about you to her. She laughed good-naturedly. You couldn't be happy about that answer, though. The sound of a door opening and closing caught both of your attention, and when you turned, considering just how tall he had grown, you figured his mom also would have been tall. She was much more on the short side for an adult anyway. Cove's height must have come from his father. Here you are. I thought you were going to keep me standing out here all day. Tried to catch Cove's eye as he walked towards you, but his gaze was firmly fixed on the sidewalk. When he finally crossed the road and looked up, he gave you a pitiful look. After the way he acted last night, you knew he must have been feeling pretty mixed up about this. You tried wordlessly to express that you understood. Cove and I are headed into town to grab something to eat while I snore. While the snore is at work? Is that supposed to be his dad? Kyra beamed at Cove and ruffled his hair, which only seemed to upset him. You assumed the snore she was talking about was Mr. Holden. Yeah. Hey, you should come with us, Bish. I'd love to get to know you better. Yeah, you could come. There was a pleading in his tone that you couldn't miss. Of course, we'll run it by your parents first. Responsibility and all that. It'll give me an excuse to meet them, which I need to do at some point. It's important to be neighborly if I'm going to be roosting on the street for the time being. Woozies. Let's go. Any woozies? Any whoosies? I don't know. Kyra walked ahead towards your house, and you hung back with Cove, who crinkled his nose. Sorry about her, but I really do want you to come. I don't want it to be just the two of us. You leaned in closer and whispered while checking around for anyone who might hear. Cove shook his head and sighed heavily. Okay, so nobody knew. Dad was so focused on Mom showing up that he didn't even notice. I thought when I heard them on the phone last night that it was something they were planning for the future. This morning, Dad said it was supposed to be a surprise, and I guess it was a surprise. She was going to be here all summer. I'll go with you if you really want me to. Okay, I think we're going to leave it off there because I don't think any more events are going to be coming anytime soon. How do I save this? Hold on. Save. Bish. Alrighty. And then... Alright. Time for the outro. Thank you for all of you who came and hung out with me. We'll probably finish up this story again soon, but I'm not sure what we're gonna be doing for the rest of the week. But I know that not tomorrow, but the day after, I'll be streaming again. I'll probably put a poll up or something for what we do. But yeah, thank you all for coming. And I hope you had a good time. Alrighty, bye-bye.